David, is there a Yankees ankle that I didn't see?
Just the fact that they're off to the best start any team's had in 21 years. And
no, I just didn't know if I didn't see anything.
Yeah, no.
They're playing to their payroll.
Yeah, might even be playing above it.
True. Who's their best pitcher? Oh, the dude with the mustache.
Yeah, I don't think it's Garrett Cole so far this year, although he pitched really well the other day.
No, what's this guy's name?
Cortez.
Yes. He's really
Nestor.
Popular on Twins broadcasts.
Cortez?
Wasn't that the one Jim Cat made a second?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, was he doing Twins or was he actually filling in doing Yankees?
Thought it was the Twins when he called him the Nestor the Molester, and that
right
really well.
He called him Nestor the Molester?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
That was after he already said something that was borderline inappropriate this year, but he's still working.
Yeah, he did that late last year, the first one.
Was it? Okay.
All right, I'm going to switch over to program.
Okay.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you on this first Monday of June, asking the question, how the heck are you, Miller and Moulton? Thanks so much for being with us. Hope you had a great weekend. And thanks for being a part of the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Big week for us. On Saturday, we're having our golf tournament. We're excited about that. Mark, how was your weekend? How are you?
Weekend was good. Weekend was low-key. It seemed like it lasted forever. It was one of those great weekends that yesterday I kept going, am I supposed to be doing something other than laying on my hiney? Because it just felt like it was over. So it was a great weekend.
Is that because Friday was a long washout and it almost felt like you had 3 days off this week instead of 2?
I think it was that. I think it was the fact that it was the first day that my daughter had off of school. Thursday was the last day. My wife has Fridays off. So we had all of us together for 3 consecutive days and no bodily harm done, no problems at all. So it was a pretty positive weekend.
So summer's off to a good start is what you're saying.
Darn right.
I'm coming at you live from Baltimore. Had to head out of town. Wife's best friend, their kids. It was a big weekend. One graduated high school, one had confirmation. So we popped into town. We'll be flying back tonight. And weather-wise, it was perfect. I got out of town right before the heavy stuff came, and the weather in Baltimore was San Diego-esque. It was low 80s, no humidity. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I'll fly back tonight, and I believe all the stuff is come and gone, so it's worked out well for me also.
Well, I will tell you, David, this morning was the first morning, and I don't know if you felt this, Felipe, but this morning was, to me, the first official morning of summer, because after the weather of the weekend and it being pretty wet out, when Frank and I went to make that march outside this morning at about 5 a.m., it hit you. The humidity just slapped you right in the face when you walked out the front door and said, "Hello, everybody. I'm Summer, and I'm here to stay." So that was the first one of those that I really got with. So I think, David, when you walk out the airport doors tonight, you walk off the tarmac, you walk through RSW, you'll make your way to pick up your car, and you're going to walk out those doors, and you're going to go, "Oh, this is back."
Well, I will say this, when it's not a part of your life, like these last couple of mornings in Baltimore, walking outside, and it's like, oh, wow, so is this what life is like? No humidity in the, wow, I have forgotten this. Never mind, look at those big green trees. Huh. So the rest of the country looks like this, huh? So, yes, but it'll be nice to be back. Tonight, it was a terrific sports weekend, a lot going on. I mean, there was plenty of sports if you wanted to digest it. I understand this time of year, people watch less and less sports, but let me tell you, if you were in the mood for it, it was out there.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt between, I mean, obviously you've got the hockey and the basketball that are taking center stage with the NBA Finals going on last night and Golden State evening things up at 1-1. Tampa getting a huge win to keep that series relevant. It was on the verge of being over. Rangers out to a 2-split lead, and you're like, oh boy, Tampa's going to be down 3-0, and this sucker's over. And Tampa Bay with a huge come from behind win last night. Can't say enough big things about what the Lightning did. And David, I know you're a diehard Ranger fan, but man, oh man, from the standpoint of a series, that sucker was on the verge of being over yesterday. And the Lightning showed the heart of a champion and came back to get game 3.
Well, if we had forgotten where they came from against Toronto, they reminded us yesterday against the Rangers that they are champions and you are going to have to drive a stake through them to be on the winning end of the handshake line. They are not going to give you 4. They gave the Rangers 1. Then the Rangers slightly outplayed them to get a second. But then the Lightning said, yeah, it's first 1 to 4. Remember that. We certainly haven't forgotten. And so I will say that series is where it should be based on how the games have gone. The team that has had the edge in play in all 3 games has won all 3 games, which is not always the case in hockey because of the whole goaltending factor. So the series is 2-1. It should be 2-1, and we'll have a riveting game 4 tomorrow.
Yeah, this having a little feel of, hockey doesn't have the same feel as basketball, but the old adage, the series doesn't start until someone loses a home game. Well, Tampa showed yesterday that home ice advantage is still relevant with the late goal and getting the 3-2 victory. So, yeah, you had basketball. You had hockey that was riveting yesterday between the Lightning and the Rangers. You had the U.S. Open women's golf. You had the Memorial. You had French Open tennis the last 2 mornings. So it has been true, and not to mention all the baseball that's going on. So College World Series, the softball World Series, whatever unless it's football. And even there, David, I guess you could find the USFL. There was nothing you couldn't find over the weekend from a sports standpoint.
Well, I will say I follow Tim Brando on Twitter, and it was interesting that Tim Brando, with everything that was going on this weekend, he was tweeting about the USFL. And I even was looking at his tweets going, Tim, as somebody who adores spring football the way I do, Tim, come on now. I mean, you got Rafa winning his 14th French. Think about that. Pete Sampras, when he retired as the all-time Grand Slam champion. Pete Sampras in his legendary career won 14 Grand Slams. Nadal's won that many French. I mean, outside of the French, he's a Hall of Fame player. He's won 8 slams away from Roland Garros. But, I mean, what he's just turned 36 also. What he has done there is something you have to figure we're never going to see this again, right? I mean, come on. Somebody win 14 slams at one particular place?
It's Bill Russell territory right there.
It's
it is.
better.
It is better than Bill Russell, actually.
I mean, that's how remarkable what Rafael Nadal has been on the red clay of Paris. And he had to have injections yesterday. He apparently couldn't feel his left foot. They had to freeze it. We did say it at the beginning of the tournament. How in the world was he a 5 seed? I mean, you know, I'm guessing he beats Djokovic in the final if they seed him 1-2, but it at least should have been the final. I mean, come on.
Hey, I think all these tournaments should be seeding based on what they think, not on what the ATP rankings tell them to think.
I mean, honestly, for the rest of his adult life, if he enters the tournament, don't you have to make him a 1 or a 2?
Yes.
I mean, Felipe just brought up Bill Russell, who, 13 seasons, won 11 titles? Well, Nadal has played 17 French. He's 14-3 in terms of winning it.
Right. He's 112-3 in terms of what his match record is.
Right. But basically, if he enters the thing, he should be the favorite, right? I mean, come on. Can't we agree on this? But remarkable what he's done. He now has 22 slams, 2 more than Djokovic and Federer. Federer, by the way, not entering Wimbledon. And the Williams sisters aren't in either. Have we seen the last, Mark, of those 3 tennis legends?
And it looks like we'll probably find out come Wimbledon. I would think maybe the Open for Serena or Venus would still be a possibility, but if you go a year without seeing them, you've got to think about the end.
Well, Federer had indicated that he was going to try to make it back for Wimbledon and play one more tournament on the grass, and apparently his surgically repaired knee will not allow him to. Serena hasn't played since she got hurt in the first round of Wimbledon last year, and Venus hasn't played since, I think, an August tournament somewhere. And all 3 that we've mentioned are in their 40s. So it looks as if they're all going quietly into the good night. And it's why maybe we need to embrace Nadal and Djokovic while we have them, because they are 36 and 35 years old, respectively.
Yeah, I think Rafi will let us know when he's going to retire. I think he'll be a little different than the 3 previously mentioned. I don't think his retirement will sneak up on anybody unless it was because of injury.
Well, that's just it. I mean, Nadal's talking about now he may not be able to play Wimbledon.
Essentially won in straight sets with his foot being asleep. That's what he said it
Correct.
felt like. He said his foot basically played with his foot being asleep and won 3-3 in love. Okay.
Against the top 10 player in the world.
So handicaps don't matter against him either. Hey, we're going to let you play on one foot. How's that?
And as Mac is asking in our Twitch chat room, now you have to wonder, does Djokovic catch back up to Nadal? Or is Rafa, who basically, I mean, is Rafa now the greatest of all time? You know, he's very rarely been mentioned that way. He's been recognized as the greatest clay court player of all time. But, you know, Federer, people seem to like him more and they felt he was more well-rounded. And, you know, then Djokovic, you know, who's beaten Nadal more than Nadal's beaten him, although I think it's now down to 1. And so he caught up to Nadal with majors, so people were making the argument it was Djokovic. I mean, Mark, when this thing ends, is Rafi on the, you know, it's not often that we are watching someone who is the greatest of all time. You know, like LeBron. Some people want to make the argument, but most people don't feel he's the greatest of all time. They feel the guy who came the generation before him is. But yesterday,
Nadal might be the greatest left-handed athlete of all time.
well, David Sampson took to Twitter to wonder whether or not he's the greatest athlete of all time, period, in terms of what he's accomplished. So, but a remarkable weekend. And oh, by the way, the baseball season has hit the 1/3 pole. Almost 2 months to the day, Mark. April 7th to June 6th. We're 2 months in.
And we will talk a little baseball on the show today, as well as a little hockey and a little NBA as well. The starting 5, about 20 minutes in front of us. Hope you had a terrific weekend. David is in Baltimore. I'm in the cozy confines, and we're happy you're listening to us. Miller and Moulton, where else but right here on the Florida Sports Network. Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah, Mac, we talked about that when it was going down, that we felt way too many Russians to ban, number one. Number two, to do it at the point of the season that they would have done it would have been grossly unfair to all the teams involved. Did you pay attention to college baseball or softball
Not
this weekend?
softball, a tiny bit to baseball.
So I think it was Friday night. Kennesaw State played LSU. They're up 11-4 in the eighth. They gave up a 10 spot. First game of the regional.
Wow.
Ouch.
I saw there was potential for a lot of upsets.
Gators had to win 2 games yesterday just to make it to today. There's I think 11 of the 16 regionals are still undecided. Canes are out. Knowles are out.
Question. So that it's easier to, I guess, transition to commercial, do you want me to play the 30-second cue music? Or do you want me to just keep it regular?
Well, it's definitely easier. It gives us an idea that we're within 30 seconds. But aren't you supposed to be doing it? Aren't you supposed to be doing it for Westwood One's benefit?
That was for Michigan's benefit.
Oh, okay.
30 seconds.
So the amateur from Michigan State,
yeah,
on the LIV got 4.5. So what I'm told by one of his college teammates through a friend of mine.
Well, I see. How about those Everblades? Let's come back.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton on this Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. Thanks for starting your week off with us here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. I'm coming at you live from Baltimore. I'll be back in the cozy confines tomorrow, and that's where Mark is today. I'm just chair dancing to the music, Mark. That's all.
Okay. Didn't know. Got me a little.
Nope. I just stopped and I'm just doing a little Monday chair dancing. That's all. Working my way into the week.
I must have had some sort of effect on this show.
Why? We were chair dancing long before you, Felipe. I will say that. It's the only kind of dancing that Miller and Moulton do. I don't know. I don't know if you're aware by looking at the two of us, but there's not a lot of rug cutting that happens in our world. Outside of the chair dancing and the occasional car dancing, there is no dancing.
I do a lot of those two things, though.
Yeah, but Felipe, you also are up there trying to do whatever it is you do standing as well. I mean, you dance as much as you can, and you like to dance. It surprises me, typically people that like to dance have girlfriends.
Wow.
Because girls like to dance.
Wow.
And usually it's those of us on the sidelines. That's why I'm a little surprised that
you went there
early too. I mean, that's early nomination for a-hole moment of the show.
No. It's more of a surprise because David, as you're well aware because I'm looking at you. A lot of times I don't even see Felipe during the morning, and they're glorious mornings in and of themselves. But today, because you're not here, I have you on camera, and I'm staring down Felipe. At some point, he'll be standing up there just dancing for no real reason.
Hold up.
Well, What I like to have is an over-under as to which number is bigger. How many times he starts dancing when no one's talking to him and he's just kind of living in his own world during the
Here
show,
we go.
and then how many times he falls asleep.
Yep, there it is.
So it's like a best of 7 series onto itself, first 1 to 4. And we'll just see. Right now it sounds like dancing is winning, but it's early.
Very
It's
early, David. Very
Yep.
early. That 8:00 hour can be very devastating on young Felipe at from time
Right.
to time.
Yep. Not just to our audience, but apparently also to our producer. Miller and Moulton on this Monday. If you haven't texted the show, feel free to do so. And if you haven't sent a text before, we'll send it to FSN Radio. FSN Radio to 21,000. And once you send us that, well, then you can text to your heart's content. We are broadcasting live once again on Twitch, the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel. So you can take us in there as well. Yeah, I forgot to do the magic numbers, Mark. Sometimes I get all discombobulated on the road. I mean, the magic numbers are 88 and 95 also for the start of their respective football seasons. So my bad. I apologize.
It is a nice way to start Mondays. Once we're getting 8s, this is it gets that time of year. We're getting fresh numbers. We'll start breaking it under 75 pretty soon.
And actually, it's 87 and 94 are the numbers. So the math was off as well. Boy, I'll tell you, got to get it together here, Moulton. Starting 5's coming up in about 12 minutes. Come
Got to
on
get you
now.
back in the 239. I don't know this. Usually you're a better traveler than this, but it's off season. You're not used to being on the road right now. Here's what it is also. This trip was personal, not business. When it's business, you're locked in.
That is true. Although I was working all weekend, but yes, it was personal. And it was fun. I'm not used to having fun. I'm just used to working. You mean you're allowed to live a life? You're allowed to spend time with other people? You're allowed to go out and dine and do things? What? I went over someone else's house, Mark. Yes, I and the wife joined me. The two of us went and visited another, wait for it, couple.
Now, you had to travel about 1,000 miles to do this, which is
Right. And there's
interesting. You can do this closer to your home.
exactly
You don't need to get on a plane to
Correct.
go to someone else's house.
Right. You and your wife and me and my wife live 15 minutes from one another. And there have been many opportunities in which that I and my wife could have come over to your house in the last, 3 years. I mean, I think the last time the two of us were at your house were a 2019 Kentucky Derby party.
Sounds about right.
Right. So instead, 3 years later, yes, I'm paying for airfare, a rental car, and hotel rooms to go visit another household that has a couple in it.
But maybe you had enough fun that you'll do it closer to home now.
Well, we'll have to have a meeting, the wife and I. We'll have to talk about it. All right. My wife did proclaim, by the way, on this flight that she's never flying again. Now, I don't know if you have people in your life. And I'm not just talking to you, Mark. I'm to everyone who's listening right now. I don't know if you have someone in your life who's like this, but I now have 2 people in my life. My mother and now my wife are both insisting that they will never fly again.
Well, it should make it a lot easier for you to go to sporting events across the country. You won't have to say, do you want to come with me?
Exactly. But think about this. All right. I can't get my wife to go to your house, which is 15 minutes away, and now she's not willing to fly anywhere. So this is going to be interesting going forward. That's all I'm saying. This is going to be interesting.
A lot of questions, but I'll get you back in studio to get most of the answers because I don't know how many of these you want to go on air.
Although I will say I may start looking like Felipe. I may just be dancing all over the place. By myself, though. People wonder, does he have a date? Nah, she doesn't go anywhere. Oh, okay.
At least anywhere that involves a flight.
Yeah.
Now, this is anything with a direct flight? Does this just mean a connection? Is this flights in general? We are done with airports.
As of this trip, it is flights in general. So
I don't know how much I blame her. I used to love to fly. I used to love to travel. It's far more stressful than it's ever been. It is. There are far more crazy people flying than ever, or at least far more crazy people that'll let everyone know that they're crazy flying. They used to just confine their craziness to themselves for the flight and get through it with a couple cocktails, and now they're more in the mood to let everyone know.
I have noticed there are a lot more pets. Pre-pandemic, I'd never noticed this many pets. So I don't know if people are comfortable with that or if that makes them uncomfortable. I
They're
have to
paying a
admit,
lot of money to fly those pets.
yes, they are. There's no question about it. But there are a lot more pets on planes than I ever remember since the pandemic. So
Do you think they should be able to take their pets out, or once they're in the cage, they should be in the cage under the seat for the whole flight? A lot of people like to get those little dogs, put them right in their laps when they start flying. That's kind of against the rules.
yes, it is. But we all just kind of go, listen, as long as you keep it on the lap, we're fine. I don't know. I'll get in trouble if I answer this the way that I would like to answer this.
Really?
Yeah, here's why. The people who really need the pets, I'm fine with.
Well, yeah,
All right.
yes.
But I think over half the people that are flying with their pets are like those who don't need the handicap parking spot, but got it at one point in time and now continue to fill it out and take it. Like, I think people just don't want to pay to board their animals, half of them that are bringing their pets on the plane. And that bothers me. All right. No. I think the people who need the pets, all right, they're having trouble with stress and life and what have you. I get it. But if you just don't want to board your pet, well, suck it up.
By the way, don't blame the veterinarians. It's the human doctor that gives them the pass to put their animal on a flight. The veterinarian doesn't have the authority to do that, just for the record. Not that we've ever been asked.
No, not that that's come up right at home or anything.
Miller and Moulton, we thank you so much for listening. The starting five is coming next, right here. Where else? The Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Or do you think he just...
No,
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was just kind of being aggressive. I think he got inside of us, and he kept trying to slide us, and he would wash up the track kind of right into the door for 3 laps in a row, and then finally just tucked him behind us and ran the back of us. So it's just, I mean, it's the choices you make.
Do you feel like you did enough to kind of make his day
Difficult?
difficult? I mean, I know
I
he
made it
finished
more
top
difficult. Yeah, I made it more difficult, but I didn't touch his car, and but it's we had a miserable day. We went from run up front to do more. You have to do more than that. There are no warnings. I mean, you just can't. You just when you make decisions, and obviously he wasn't shy after our contact. I mean, it seems like there's no sense of conscience there that says that maybe I'm going a bit aggressive. But that's his decision to make. He can make any decision that he wants to. Honestly, he's his own guy, and he's been very successful doing what he's doing. But ultimately, sport is self-policing. Usually, when you least expect it, when it means the most, is when it comes back around.
What was that?
It was Denny Hamlin on Ross Chastain wrecking him.
Yeah, Chastain took the blame. Afterwards, Chastain said, I was a mess out there today. I was making mistakes everywhere. I was driving too deep into the corners.
Wait, was that the video of was it Denny Hamlin that shot the birds at him? There was a driver that shot 2 birds at someone, like ran out to the track and shot 2 birds.
I don't know.
Well, I know Hamlin at one point pulled up alongside him to give him a hell. Thank you. That's nice of you. Yeah, to Greg at Tiburon, I don't know why you guys allow it. Didn't there used to be, it was against like the health codes and all that?
For what?
To have pets at restaurants.
I think they're outdoors.
I think a Gil Hodges is a Dodger. Mac.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? We are Miller and Moulton. This is the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. For those of you, well, like Tampa St. Pete got just a smidge, but in Port Charlotte, Venice, and in Southwest Florida, hope you made it through the Friday and Saturday rains okay. For those of you from I-4 North, well, hope you were able to get out and about a little bit more than most of us did over the weekend. I'm broadcasting live from Baltimore. Just headed out of town for personal reasons. Be back tonight. Broadcasting next to Mark Miller and the Cozy Confines tomorrow. And we're getting ready for our golf tournament on Saturday.
It's going to be nuts, David. Absolutely crazy. Golf tournament of a lifetime. I don't know if West Bay will be the same by the time we leave.
Well, there is a very good chance that we kind of trash it a little bit. And we know a few members over there. It'll be interesting to see whether or not we're allowed back. But we're going to have a good time. We've waited 3 years for this. We're going to have a good time.
And we've waited, roughly 40 minutes for this. It's not the golf tournament, but it is.
The starting five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the starting 5 on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Well, Mark, there were a lot of similarities to game 2 to game 1. The difference was there was no 40-16 fourth quarter by the Celtics. But what was a 2-point game at the half turned into a 23-point game after 3 because the Warriors outscored the Celtics 35-14 in the third quarter. And Boston really didn't make a run. 107-88 was the final to even the series at a game apiece. Series will shift to Boston on Wednesday. Steph at 29. You know who struggled first 2 games of this series? And you could spin it either way. Klay Thompson.
A little better in the second half yesterday. Had a terrible first half last night.
4 for 19 from the field was Klay Thompson yesterday. I think 15 points game 1, 11 in game 2. So Tatum got off the schneid at 28 for Boston. But series is tied at 1. And we go to Boston now. Best of 5 with the Celtics having home court. Does your opinion change? We both picked the Warriors in 7. We staying with it?
I'm fine with my pick. Remember, as good as Boston was on the road during the postseason, they've been about the same at home. So they have no dominant home court advantage. Not something you need to worry about in this series.
Let's see. They went 2-0 against Brooklyn. They went 2-2 against Milwaukee, and they went 1-2 against Miami. So you add that up, and that's 5-4 are the Celtics at home during the playoffs. Not very impressive. One other basketball note, Quinn Snyder did ultimately resign from the Utah Jazz. Word came out late last week that he was thinking about it, and he said, I just feel they need a different voice, that they've gone about as far as they can go with me. I think Quinn's being diplomatic. I think Quinn, with Danny Ainge now in control of the organization, that Quinn is not necessarily going to have as much hand as he used to have, and the guy that hired him is no longer there, and new ownership on top of it, and I think Quinn's getting out. He'll sit out a year probably, and then he'll pick where it is he wants to go. But Quinn Snyder, who was tied for the 3rd longest tenure in the NBA with Steve Kerr, leaves the Utah Jazz. Well, the Lightning were in trouble. They lost the first 2 games in New York, and then they gave up 2 early power play goals in the second period. And they were down 2-0 mid-second period to the Rangers. And they just put their head down and worked their you-know-what off and fought their way back. Got one back in the second, got an early power play goal in the third to tie it. And then Kucherov, who had a marvelous game, a goal and 2 assists, a beautiful backhand pass right on the stick of Palat, who one-timed it for the game winner with 42 seconds to go. And the Lightning come back to win game 3, 3-2. Rangers lead the series 2-1, game 4 tomorrow in Tampa.
Gutsy win by the Lightning. They had the 4-on-3 power play. They end up getting They end up taking a penalty. It looked like that was going to bite them. They had some great chances to get a goal early and just couldn't get anything going. Gave up the 2 power play goals, like you mentioned, David. So gritty performance by the defending champs.
And they just threw a bunch of rubber at Shesterkin. 50, 51 shots, something like that. And finally, the last one with 42 seconds to go got by them. Only time they led in the game was with 42 seconds to go. I will say this, Mark. When the series started, you and I both picked the Lightning. We both picked them in 6. And we just flat thought that the Lightning were clearly better than the Rangers. Without Braden Point, that is not necessarily the case.
Well, I actually thought Chris Chelios was terrific in the intermission, pointing out how good the Ranger defense have been, how calm they've been, how they've been making the first pass, and that the Tampa forecheck has done nothing against the New York defense. And I know Fox is there, and he's been playing the best of any of the defensemen in the series right now, but everybody on the Ranger team, they're able to absorb hits, move the puck, not panic, not run around in their own end. Defensively, they've been better than anybody expected them to be.
Game 4 tomorrow in Tampa. Rangers lead the series 2-1. The winner of that series is undoubtedly going to face Colorado. In fact, they could face them as soon as tonight. Avs are up 3-0 on the Oilers. Game 4 tonight in Edmonton. The Avs are 6-0 on the road in these playoffs. 6-0. Golf, U.S. Women's Open. Minjee Lee from Australia really put this tournament away after Saturday. She was going to have to choke because she had a comfortable 4-shot lead after Saturday. And she went out and fired an even par round. And on a U.S. Open course, that'll usually get it done. And Minjee Lee wins the U.S. Women's Open by 4 over American Mina Haragay. Remember the amateur, Lindblad, who shot the 664 in the first round? She ended up finishing T11. You know, gave a few back over the course of especially the weekend, but still, damn near a top 10 as an amateur. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive, and she'll probably be a pro by this morning. I thought the fun part was, and I watched a little bit of it, she had a paper or a project due this morning and was given an extension by the professor to play in the U.S. Open. I thought that was, I mean, particularly at LSU. If they start harping on the women's golf team, we've got real problems there, David.
You got that right. By the way, give it up to Nelly Corda. Remember, she'd missed 4 months with the blood clot in her upper left arm. Her first tournament, she finishes T8.
Played well on Saturday.
Yeah, top 10 in the U.S. Women's Open. Hats off to Nelly Corda. By the way, did you hear the story? Daniel Kang, who at one point, she's, I think, 12th ranked player in the world, American, and she's been in the top 3 in the world. But they found a tumor resting on her spine, and they don't know if it's cancerous or not. She'd been complaining about back pain. Her game had suffered. It took a month's worth of tests, and apparently recently they found that she had a tumor on her spine, and basically they were wanting to go in and do something, and she said, I got to play the U.S. Women's Open, and then I'll do whatever it is you want. So don't expect to see Daniel Kang for a while on the women's tour. PGA Tour, Billy Horschel, the Gator with a 4-shot win over Aaron Wise. Max Homa, Will Zalatoris continue their fine runs. They both finished T5. And now we got the U.S. Open in a week and a half. I know we got the LIV tournament this week, and we got the RBC in Canada, but let's face it, a week from Thursday, we got the U.S. Open.
LIV, RBC, USO.
I guess the only thing that we're waiting on is, will the PGA Tour / USGA do anything between now and a week from Thursday from those that have, well, going to play in the LIV. And did you see, Mark, on Saturday, Kevin Na resigned from the PGA Tour?
Yes. I did. I'm surprised that he went that route. I mean, decided not just to play in the LIV, but to resign from the PGA Tour.
I'm not. And I think that this is a really smart legal move. Think about it. He's now no longer a member of the tour. So if the tour and or any of these majors decide they're going to change the rules on a fly and suspend those players on the PGA Tour who went to go play in the LIV Series event, I believe Kevin Na did this because it's his way of saying, you can't do anything to me. I'm not a member of the tour.
But for the record, I will be stunned if the USGA does something. Stunned. I get the tour's going to do whatever they're going to do. The USGA does something in the next 10 days to suspend these guys. This will be as shocking as a sporting event that will happen to me personally.
I agree. I don't think they're going to do anything between now and a week from Thursday, but I do think that they're all going to try to get in bed together. I really do. And we're going to see court orders. And it wouldn't surprise me, Mark, if something is done between now and the British Open.
It would be. Because I think they would lose big time. I don't know if the tour is going to lose, David. I don't. They're a private company. They have the ability to make rules and do whatever they see fit for their organization. I don't see how the RNA and USGA could fly under that same umbrella. I just don't see it.
I can't agree with you more. Rafa Nadal won his 14th French Open yesterday. His 22nd Grand Slam. He did it in straight sets over Casper Ruud, 3-3-0. He needed his left foot injected with, frozen. He couldn't feel it while he played yesterday. 36-year-old Rafael Nadal trying to be remembered as the best ever. One international soccer match of note. The dream for the Ukraine ended. Wales beat them 1-0. Wales with the final spot in the World Cup at Ukraine's expense.
And Major League are in the U.S. and
Yes.
England's pool,
Yes.
for what it's worth.
Rays lost to the White Sox 6-5. Marlins lost to the Giants 5-1. Yankees swept a homestand, beating Detroit 5-4-10. They're 39-15 at the 1/3 poll. They're on pace to win 117 games, are the Yankees. Phillies fired Joe Girardi on Friday. We got that right. We said he wouldn't see Friday, and he didn't. And then they went out and swept the Angels in a 3-game series, 9-7 the final yesterday. They got a walk-off 3-run homer in the 9th. The Angels have lost 11 in a row. The Red Sox right now at 500 are the 6th and final playoff team in the American League. Speaking of the Red Sox, they beat the A's 5-2. Mark, a big over on the attendance.
Huge. They got it done in 2 days, David.
Yes, they did. They drew nearly 18,000 on Friday, nearly 15,000 on Saturday, and 12,084 yesterday for nearly 45,000 for a 3-game series in Oakland.
They're back.
Braves swept the Rockies 8-7. Acuna with 4 hits. Twins over the Jays 8-6. Houston now has an 8.5-game lead in the West with the Angels' 11-game losing streak. Astros 7-4 over the Royals. Cardinals 5-3-11 over the Cubs. Seattle beat Texas 6-5-10. Padres swept the Brewers 6-4-10, and because of it, Milwaukee's lead is down to 2 in the Central. And actually, it's down to a half a game. The Padres are only 2 back of the Dodgers. Dodgers split a 4-game series with the Mets. Mets winning yesterday 5-4-10. Washington 5-4 over Cincy. Cleveland edged Baltimore 3-2. Pittsburgh shut out Arizona 3-0. Joey Logano, a winner in St. Louis before a sold-out crowd, 1.25-mile track. It was a great race, and everyone seemed to love it. First ever race in St. Louis. Joey Logano edged the Busch brothers. Kyle and Kurt finished 2nd and 3rd. Our buddy Ross Chastain wrecked everybody and finished 8th.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything. Oh,
No,
College World Series. The Gators got eliminated. It's UCLA and Texas for the softball title. Best of 3 starts today. Florida State and Miami are out of the college baseball tournament. The Gators play Oklahoma today. Winner advances to the Super Regional.
then that's it. That's what we call the starting 5. There you go. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
So, David, I think you, as a huge fan of fast food, should go as one of the McDonald Land characters on Bourbon Street after the game. I'm thinking Grimace.
Well, I've got the body type, the big round face. I was always a big fan.
I mean, you're more of a hamburglar by nature, but body type, you're more of a Grimace.
I like it. So you want me to drag this costume into the Ritz-Carlton in New Orleans?
I
Okay.
want you to wear it in the booth, but I don't think that'll go over well. I think if you walked up as Grimace and stood next to Aikman in the booth, I think he'd fire you on the spot, and I don't think Buck would be able to do the broadcast. He'd laugh for 3 straight hours.
Thanks for listening to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
What's up, Twitch chat? How's it going? How we doing? Did you see that shot that Jordan Poole hit at the end of the third quarter?
I did.
My
Yeah.
God, that was wet. Oh, so Mark, the free game of the month for PlayStation Plus was FIFA 22. I've come to the realization that FIFA is the best sports game.
Better than hockey.
Chell is close. That's the thing. But Chell and FIFA, it's similar in the sense that you're scoring a goal. But FIFA is so much fun, and it's so good. And it's crazy how EA can make games like NHL and FIFA that are so good and then make Madden that's so ass. I hate Madden. It's cheese. It's way too easy to get interceptions.
Thank you, Benny. Yeah, Arch, I don't know how. I mean, they're obviously going to take the 48 golfers and turn them into 24 twosomes while also playing an individual tournament. So to me, that obviously everybody's got to play everything out then.
20 seconds. What are we talking about here?
Don't know. Need
David,
a poll question.
David, you made an error during the starting five.
Uh-oh. What's
Well, what was it?
Right. He mispronounced Acuna. He pronounced Acuna.
Okay. I'll tell you what. If you correct me on the air, you're fired.
Okay.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Minute and a half past the hour. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for being with us here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Text the show, especially if you never have before. Just reach out. Say hi. We get to wave back to you, so to speak. Text FSN Radio, all one word, to 21,000. FSN Radio to 21000. And, we read text on the air. Mark's got the text in front of him. And he gets them dozens at a time. So, he sifts through them. We don't read them all. We respond to a few off air, and we read a few on air. And we particularly enjoy the text at about 8:23 in the evening when you're downloading a podcast.
Yeah, I love it when they're into a podcast and whatever it is hits them. And sometimes it could be, some people don't listen to today's show today. They may catch it later in the week. And then I'm trying to figure out what it is they're either upset, happy, or fired up about. So I'll take the text at any time. The Celtics and Warriors last night. Golden State getting the job done, evening that series. Tampa Bay with a huge win yesterday, down 2-0, come from behind, rally to win 3-2 with 42 seconds left. It was the series saver for the Lightning because that series was on the verge of being over.
Well, they're clearly not as good as the teams the last 2 years that have won the championship. Yet they're still very capable of hoisting a cup for a third time. They're not as good, I think, for a couple of reasons, the biggest of which is right now they're missing somebody who you could argue when healthy is their best all-around player and has been an absolute terror in the playoffs the last 2 years in Braden Point. I mean, Mark, to think if this team can just fight their way back, because I expect Point to play before this series is over.
Yeah, and I don't. You and I have differed on that throughout. I thought if he wasn't there for game one, they weren't going to get him back. And I know it's getting closer. He's practicing in full equipment. They're hoping to get him back, but you're dealing with a guy in a hip injury that if he comes back, What do they get out of him?
Well, I don't think you can ask him to be what he's been, but I do think that you could put him, you could put him on one of the bottom 6 lines, but B, they're getting killed in faceoffs. And the Rangers are a bad faceoff team, and they are killing the Lightning in the faceoff circle. And if that doesn't seem like a big deal to those that don't really pay attention to the sport, that's possession. You win the faceoff, you possess the puck. So which means, you either have to turn it over or be forced into a turnover. And Mark, I think it's part of the reason, you had made the comment last hour that Chris Chelios made the observation that the Rangers defense is playing better than anyone thought they were going to in this series. Well, not only are they handling the forecheck better, but they're getting the puck off faceoffs a lot more. Like if you watch the Rangers in the first 2 rounds against Pittsburgh and Carolina, and Mark, I know you did watch most of those series, the Rangers defense were always chasing the puck. In this series, they seem to have it on their stick, in stride, moving whichever way they want to leave the zone more freely. And in part of it, it's because they're winning over 60% of the faceoffs in this series. And Braden Point would immediately stop that.
And you look at last night, Tampa Bay finally, or yesterday, Tampa finally won 50% of the faceoffs. It was the first even game in the series, and Tampa ends up winning the hockey game. I don't know how much of a coincidence it is.
And they were not winning the faceoffs the first period and a half of the game. They were losing them almost 2-1. So Tampa's comeback, you can also look, yes, they scored 3 goals, in part because they started possessing the puck more. They started winning faceoffs. And I think Braden Point would come out over the benchmark. And you know how the really good coaches can do it, in which they can send somebody out there on offense or defense to win a faceoff and then get them right off the ice.
I think it would be helpful, particularly for big faceoffs in your own zone. Get the puck, get it out. So, but he's got to get back into the lineup, and that's the first part. And I just don't know whether or not that's going to happen. And I know you watch a lot of the Rangers. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. Is there anybody that's more annoyed by the in-between, in-game interviews than Gerard Gallant, the Ranger head coach? It's an old school guy, tough left winger, good hockey player, was a 20-goal, 200-minute guy damn near every year of his career. Gerard Gallant dropped the gloves a decent amount. More of a wrestler than a pure brawler. But Jerry wasn't afraid of anybody and would protect his teammates. He looks as if he wants to start a line brawl every time they put those headsets on him.
I will say I thought he was a little more annoyed yesterday because there was a little more contact with his goalie yesterday, and he was genuinely annoyed by it, more so than I think his goalie was. He even joked about it afterwards. He goes, Shesterkin was fine, but it really bothers me.
Well, I mean, Shesterkin did a hell of a job to try to embellish that he was decapitated on one of the hits when a stick barely touched him, and he flew back 7 feet.
He did. He's been watching a little much World Cup soccer. There's no question about it. So, hey, we got a series now. All right. But the funny thing is, you mentioned how annoyed Gallant looks. And meanwhile, John Cooper, and they interviewed John Cooper. He's trailing in the series. He's trailing in the game. And they interviewed John Cooper. And John Cooper's just the nicest damn guy in the world. What do you want to ask me? That's a good point. And here's our problem. And then he goes on to explain it, and he kind of looks at him, and they're like, well, coach, we know you got to go. And Cooper kind of looks at him like, no, I'm fine. Anything else on your mind?
2-minute break. What are you talking about? I can get you one more answer.
Right. Besides, what am I going to say to these guys? I've been with them for 10 years. They've heard everything I got to say. You're the one who hasn't heard what I've got to say. So ask me another question.
So, and maybe that's why I find Jerry to be so entertaining, because John Cooper is great.
Yes.
Is great. He's like he's part of the damn broadcast when they go to Cooper. And Gallant does not have time for any of this.
Right. We could ask a poll question, but I'm afraid of the results. See, I like the And I know basketball, football, hockey. I know it's the obligatory question or two. But what's the harm in asking it? I mean, if 90% of the time you get the same generic answer, okay, fine. But every now and then you actually get something. I mean, we're broadcasting these games. Shouldn't we at least try to give you a little something?
Well,
Extra?
if you give Jerry a little bit of a snarky follow-up, he'd give you an answer.
But there are a lot of people, and most of them are media critics, in which are like, oh, these interviews are ridiculous. Well, what's the harm in asking them? I mean, every now and then you get something good. It's worth it. You can ask 9 bad questions if you get one really good response on the 10th. It's worth it. I don't know. Maybe it's NASCAR, Mark. I mean, they're Indy 500, for goodness sakes. There's 4 laps to go. They've red flagged the race. The booth is interviewing the driver in 3rd place. Okay, when they can do that in auto racing, I mean, they're on caution laps, and every now and then they've got it where the NASCAR booth can talk to a driver. How's it going? Well, we're a little tight getting out of 2 and, what have you. And, the 24 car seems to have us covered right now, but, the sun's going to set and this track's going to be different. And, we'll just see how we are in the second half of the race. I mean, and they go to ask another question. He goes, guys, we're going green. I got to go. I mean, come on. If the racers can give interviews during the race, these coaches and athletes can answer the obligatory question during their games.
I put a lot of it on the interviewers. Ask the question, because there's a lot of softballs that are given, and then they follow up with a second softball, and that's why you don't get anything. I will say we have been getting a decent amount of text. I just assume that we're in Lightning country, because we're on in Tampa, we're on in Port Charlotte, we're on here in Fort Myers and Naples, and we do know from a television standpoint that the Lightning draw. They get good numbers. But there are a lot of hockey fans in these parts. And every time we bring up Braden Point, someone's going to say that it's just payback for Kucherov and how far they were over the cap last year. And it's not the same person. Like, I look at the text, and there are a handful of people out there, and more than a handful, that think that this is karma.
Payback. Yeah, these are the hockey gods getting even with the Lightning because they basically feel the Lightning have gamed the system each of the last 2 years.
Of which every team in the league is trying to game the system the same way. It just so happens that Tampa Bay did it with an elite superstar.
Yeah. I mean, they did. I mean, come on, you got. I mean, the one year with Kucherov, who was arguably their best forward the year before, he just conveniently sits out the whole year, and then he's 100% at the start of the playoffs.
No sense bringing him back with 6 games, 10 games left.
No. I just love the fact that apparently the league is investigating this, and they keep saying, no, everything's fine. They're not doing anything illegal. We worked the guy out. He was really hurt. Really? 2 weeks later, he's skating on the first line with a goal and a helper. Really? Okay.
Can't ever tell when these injuries are going to end, David. That's why they call it day to day.
Day to day. You don't even know if it's an upper or a lower body injury, Mark. It's really too tough to tell.
But there are a lot of people out there that think this is karma rearing its ugly head towards Tampa Bay, saying you've gamed the system, you've cheated the system, and damn it, it's payback time. Leading those cheers are ESPN because they think they might get the Rangers in a Stanley Cup final right now.
Oh, my goodness, is ESPN happy. Although Game 1 of the NBA Finals was the lowest rated Game 1 in 15 years. Not including the last 2 years because those were pandemic and, they weren't in early June and all that. So if you go back to 2007, Game 1 Spurs-Cavs, slightly lower rated, LeBron's first final against Duncan and company. That game was slightly lower rated than Game 1 of Warriors-Celtics. But otherwise, a surprisingly low number for Game 1 of the finals, Mark.
That is surprising. I thought this, you and I both thought as well as the playoffs were doing, that this series would continue to do very well. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap, featuring band attachments to your feet and hips. Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. You running laps in the hall? Are you doing sprints out there?
Suicides.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
What it
But-
sounded like.
But I'll do suicides right now if you tell me.
Good.
You know, we never had the Miller and Moulton Combine.
I know.
I really wanted to display my skills, my athletic abilities.
What are you thinking for a poll question?
Yeah, that thing.
We haven't talked about the Rays and the 5 players who wouldn't wear the Pride logos on their uniforms.
I didn't even know that was a headline until now. Interesting.
You want to talk about it here?
God, I'd love to have to talk with Jason Adam about what Jesus believes. It's a very dangerous subject for me to get into.
I think we should talk about it.
Okay.
And hopefully in Port Charlotte, they're playing this Today Show today. And not a pre-Super Bowl one. No, but Jimmy, pickleball, I think, got more live airtime than the NHL did on ESPN this year.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Henry Yoho covers the Lightning. He'll join us in about 20 minutes' time. Brett Siegel covers the NBA. He'll join us top of the hour. Warriors evening that series at a game apiece. And, well, the plan is to talk a little baseball in about an hour and 15 minutes. The Yankees, best start of any team in 21 years. And so thought we'd talk a little baseball. It's always a danger on this show, but especially outside of the 6 a.m. hour. But, you know, what the heck? We'll give it a try. See how it goes. It's June 6th, after all. It's D-Day. So we'll have a risky mission ourselves on this show coming up in about an hour and 15 minutes. Did you see the story out of the Rays this weekend?
I did. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, but I am aware that they had, patches on their shoulders and an alternative hat for Gay Pride Day at the ballpark.
Right. I think June is, LGBTQ month.
Okay.
And so an organization around this country is taking one day in the month of June to, show the colors, the rainbow colors, which shows that you are supportive of the gay community. And the Rays on Saturday, I believe, wanted to have Pride Night. And so there was, I think, patches, logos that were added to the uniform.
Right. An alternative hat and a rainbow patch on the shoulders or sleeve of the jersey.
Right. And apparently this is not a mandatory thing, which I have to admit caught me by surprise. I just figured the team, that's something that's under their control, and you're an employee and you show up at work and they go, for today, this will be your uniform. Oh, okay.
Remember when they did that to Chris Sale?
For those that don't remember, he was with the White Sox, and they had these throwback uniforms, and he wore them twice, and he told them, he said, they're wool. They itch. All right. We don't like them. I hate them. I'm not going to wear them.
Whatever you do, don't have us wear these when I'm the starting pitcher.
Correct.
Please do not have these jerseys out there.
And sure enough, the promotion was on the night when he was the starting pitcher, and Chris Sale, when he was with the White Sox, cut up every single uniform that was hanging in a player's locker, trashed them all, and was not apologetic of it either. And basically said, if you do it again, I'll do it again. And they fined him, and I don't know if they technically gave him a one-day suspension. He was a starting pitcher, so that doesn't matter. But, it made headlines, needless to say, when
But I just bring that up because it's a good story if people haven't heard Chris Sale tearing up the jerseys. This is a far different story. Again, this was LGBTQ night for the Rays. It was their Pride night on Saturday. And 5 players decided they would not wear the team's alternate hat and chose to peel off the rainbow-colored sunburst on the right sleeves of the uniforms.
Jason Adam, Jalen Beeks, Brooks Raley, Jeffrey Springs, and Ryan Thompson were the 5. They talked it over amongst themselves, and they said it was, quote, a faith-based decision, unquote. And a couple of them spoke to the media. And they tried not to disparage anyone or anything, but they just said, they were saying, listen, to them, it's a lifestyle choice. They don't see it as someone being born gay. They see it as someone choosing that lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle that they're crazy about. They feel it goes against their religious leanings. And so they said, listen, we're not going to support this. We're not going to be mean to anyone, but I'm not going to wear the hat. I'm not wearing the logo. Don't know what to tell you.
Jason Adam did most of the talking. He said, so it's a hard decision because ultimately we all said that we want to know that they are all welcome and loved here. But we sure as hell aren't going to support it. Now, they didn't. The last part was my embellishment, in case you didn't figure that out on your own. But we support them, but we really don't, is what we're saying.
So
I don't know how you can take it any other way. Hey, we support you, we welcome you, but damned if I'm going to wear anything that says I support you or welcome you.
Well, for those that believe it's
fine.
Well, for those that believe it's a lifestyle choice, I think most of us do not. I think most of us feel that someone is either, born straight or born gay, but, there are those that don't. And so they, this is not something that they're in favor of. They think they should choose a different lifestyle than the one they're choosing. They're trying to thread that needle mark of, we're not espousing any hate towards them. We're not espousing anything bad towards them. Okay. But we're not going to promote it either, because we feel as if we're promoting a lifestyle that we don't approve of.
Oh, I got what they're saying. Trust me, I get it. But, as someone who attends church pretty much every week, they give a lot that this Jesus person's supposed to love everybody. But they're trying to say,
well, what they're trying to say is it's not that we don't love them. We're just not promoting their lifestyle. That's listen, this is a much smaller part of the equation. I didn't realize players had the power to veto something like this. I really didn't. I figured that they were an employee and the employer was telling them on this day, you're wearing this. I mean, don't they tell them today's an alternative jersey day? You're wearing like the Mets brought a third jersey into the equation. You're going to wear black on Friday home games.
David, I'll take it one step further in the baseball world for you. I mean, the manager's got to wear a uniform, which we all think's laughable.
Right.
But if you don't, there are fines and penalties that go along with that. I thought that, to your point, David, I thought that the team had to wear one uniform for a game. I actually thought Major League Baseball is the one that said that, not the individual teams, but I thought it was in their actual dress code, if you will.
Right.
The players are supposed to all dress the same.
Right. So when I first heard the story, that was my first reaction. I'm like, wow, I didn't actually realize they had veto power over this. I thought you had to do what Chris Sale did 6-7 years ago. I just figured you had to cut all the uniforms up. That was the only way to get around this. So that was my first reaction. Kevin Cash, by the way, the manager of the Rays, was asked, hey, is this going to cause any division? He's like, no, this is not going to cause any division. All right. And Cash, then stepped forward and said, listen, I'm in favor of what our organization's doing. And I think we're doing a really good job with this. And, if those players, have those views and they claim it's for religious reasons, well, okay, to each their own. But this is not going to impact our locker room and how we play ball and what have you.
We'll see.
But it's an interesting story on many fronts.
And like I said, we'll see, because you don't know if any of the players have brothers who are sisters who could be gay. I mean, he's saying it now. We'll see how this stretches out inside the clubhouse. You don't know. Nobody knows how it will affect the team going forward.
Well, I also think, though, that other players on other teams, Mark, if this is a month-long celebration, I think other players on other teams now will opt not to wear the colors as well. Miller and Moulton. Talk a little Lightning. Getting back in the series with the Rangers next.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Mark, we're playing golf.
Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up now.
I'd like to thank Budweiser, Twin Peaks, and Southwest Florida Golf Carts. Got some good stuff there, flgolfcarts.com.
Where are you going to go? floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up for our tournament Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Your golf will include your foursome and a chance to have lunch and awards after.
Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com. David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Mark, the talk on Twitter was, I want someone to look at me the way that Steph looks at Jordan Poole. And do you remember the first two games of the playoffs for the Warriors when Steph was out, or Steph was coming off the bench and Jordan Poole started? I mean, for a second, he kind of looks like a young Steph Curry. For Steph to take Jordan Poole, a guy like Jordan Poole, under his wings, I think that is only beneficial for the Golden State Warriors.
God, that was a pretty game winner.
Yeah, that was pretty. I saw that. Very nice.
What one?
The Tampa game winner.
Oh, yeah.
That was a gorgeous goal.
Yep. Jimmy, there was an NBA game, but once again, it was not much of a game. I mean, you're up, what, 23, 26, something like that? 23, I think they were up after 3. And
Game at the half, and then it was done.
35-14 third quarter.
That'll do it.
Reinen misses his 3rd straight game.
Barry's got the off-white suit, light blue shirt, blue, like Tampa Bay Lightning blue tie.
He just looks like a corpse on air.
Looks like perfect description. He looks like a corpse on the air.
I don't think they put much makeup on him. I think the only thing they put, there's like it's not even a powder, but it's like a brush, and all it does is take the shine off you.
You're right.
That's about all it looks like he puts on.
But I mean, he looks like he doesn't want to be there. They look like they don't want him there. I mean,
I know.
I don't know if it's Butchergross not being with him. I don't know what it is that he feels slighted that he didn't get on the main coverage. I don't know what.
I am a little surprised, actually, if you think all the way back, considering they promoted their announcers from within. I'm a little surprised Melrose isn't on their studio.
And maybe that's what's got him honked off, and he knows he's done after this contract, or you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, the other thing is he's bringing no energy. It's not just that he looks bad. He sounds bad.
He looks bored.
Yes. Yes.
So what, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday again for Hoop?
No, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Yeah.
They opted with the Friday game, huh?
Well, it
works for me. I only have to watch one game this week.
Van Gundy didn't sound that good last night either.
Call our guy.
I know. Come back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, the floridasportsnetwork.com. You miss any part of the show, you download our podcast at floridasportsnetwork.com. Golden State, even the NBA Finals at a game apiece last night. Big third quarter once again for the Warriors. This one even bigger than game one. 35-14, they outscored the Celtics. They had a 23-point lead at the end of 3. And Golden State ended up winning by 19, 107-88. That series tied at a game apiece. The Lightning, meanwhile, well, they clawed their way back into their conference final against the Rangers with a come-from-behind 3-2 win. Henry Yoho covers the Lightning. It's boltsbythebay.com. Boltsbythebay.com. It's a fan-sided account. You can also follow Henry on Twitter at Bolts by the Bay. Bolts by the Bay. Henry, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time, particularly at this hour. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
It's our pleasure. What did you see that changed, if anything, midway through the second period yesterday, or did they just finally start to get some results?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest difference after games 1 and 2 and, the first period and a half or so of the game 3 was that, the Lightning finally got to play their game. Those first 2 games, I think they were playing a little bit of the Rangers game. I think they were fueling the offensive attack for the Rangers with a lot of giveaways and missed coverages. And I think at this point in game 3, they started to play their game. They started to spend a lot more time in their own zone. And, they were limiting the mistakes in their own end. They only gave up the 2 power play goals were all they gave up. They didn't allow anything at 5-on-5. And, the magic number for the Lightning over the past few years has been giving up 2 goals or fewer in a game. If they're giving up 2 goals or fewer in a game, then that's the recipe for success. It's almost always a guaranteed win if they're at that mark. So defending first and spending a lot of time on the attack is what was different for them in game 3, trying to get into play the way that they want to.
They finally were able to establish a forecheck. I think the Rangers so far in the series defensively, Chris Chelios pointed it out, they're able to get their defense to not run around. And it looked as if Tampa, at least in the second half of the game, finally started to establish a forecheck, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there were, some spotty times in games 1 and 2 where they did get the Rangers running around a bit in their own end and made it hard for them at times, but it became a lot more noticeable, of course, in game 3 where, they were forcing the issue rather than the Rangers getting to bring it to them. So, getting that more regularly in game 3 was definitely huge for them.
Henry Yoho covers the Lightning for Bolts by the Bay. It's a fan-sided account, Bolts by the Bay. You can boltsbythebay.com and follow him on Twitter at Bolts by the Bay. Henry, are the Rangers better than we and the Lightning thought? I mean, I thought Hedman made a good point after game 1 in which he said, listen, we haven't seen these guys in like 5 months. So, don't draw too many conclusions about game 1. We kind of, need to get a feel as to who these guys are. But, we've had 2 3-2 games now back to back. And considering what we saw the Lightning do to the Panthers, can we conclude that maybe the Rangers are a little bit more formidable than we all thought they were a week ago?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Like you mentioned, it's been quite a while since the Lightning and the Rangers met. They met just 3 times in the regular season. The Rangers won all 3 of those. But that was all around, the first part of the season. They met several times around Christmas and New Year's. And, the Rangers made a lot of changes at the deadline. They made quite a few moves, bringing in impactful players, Andrew Copp, Tyler Mott. You can, look at the deadline, and they became quite a bit of a different team. And, with a hot goaltender coming like this out of 2 7-game series, where they had to fight back from 3-1 down in round 1 against Pittsburgh, down 2-0 against Carolina. This team has, gotten going at the right time. And I think that he certainly might have caught the Lightning by surprise just by keeping the momentum rolling as a hot team going into games 1 and 2. So I think that they certainly grabbed the Lightning's attention after those games for sure. So they've got, their full attention now.
Well, and the other thing with Tampa, at some point, you mentioned it, 2 power play goals last night. I know they didn't get one in game 2, but you're going to take penalties. It's part of the game. So to say, not take penalties, I don't think that's a realistic way to look at it. But the penalty killing's got to improve because right now this Ranger power play is lethal.
Yeah, they've been, they've got, I believe, 3 power play goals in the series. They've been all over it. Mika Zibanejad has been bringing that one-timer from the Stamkos spot or the left circle, if not a little further out, actually. So, like you said, learning the penalties is certainly something you want to do. It's not necessarily realistic to commit none. But the Lightning penalty kill has not seen a power play that's been going quite like this. Florida's power play in round 2 was obviously a big story. They never really got going. The penalty kill can definitely use some work. They ended up, they can get something going from the way that they ended game 3 with a couple of late penalty kills, including the Kucherov double minor penalty kill. So, that's something to build on. At least it was they got a good penalty kill when they needed it. So, but certainly it'll be something to follow as this series goes along.
All right, Braden Point. What are you hearing? What do you think you know?
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, no one really knows much, but the conversation, it doesn't seem good. It doesn't really feel as though he's going to be coming back in the real foreseeable future. There's been some footage of him skating towards the end of the morning skates, and you don't see much other than a few clips, but it doesn't look great. He's moving around pretty cautiously out there, and it's going to be, I think, some time before he comes back, or at least until a serious need arises where they feel that the injury risk, might be somewhat minimized at this point, and it might be worth having him out there. But other than that, it doesn't seem like it's going to be happening in the real foreseeable future.
From a standpoint of what Cooper has done, is there any changes you see him making? Obviously, many regard him as the best coach in the game. Is there anything that even though they did win game 3, it was a tough fought battle that came from behind, any changes lineup wise, any changes that you think Cooper needs to make?
No, I think he might have found what they were looking for in game 3. Of course, they changed back to the traditional 12 forwards, 6 defensemen look after going 11-7 for the entirety of the series against the Panthers and the start of this series against the Rangers. Cooper's done that a number of times over the past few years, and really his entirety of his time in Tampa. And then going back to getting 12 forwards back in, it kind of, whenever you have a line out there with just 2 guys traditionally and somebody else rotating in regularly, it kind of throws things off. You're not able to get into a rhythm. And that goes for the defenseman as well, having an extra one back there. And I think just having that consistency of having, the forward lines kind of staying the same and the defense pairs knowing what you're going to get. I think seeing that consistency in the lineup in game 3 was something that was missing, and they just needed something to get a change in game 3. And I can see them definitely sticking with that lineup as you go forward into game 4.
Henry, thanks for making time for us. We appreciate it and your insight. Best of luck covering the Lightning the rest of the way, and hopefully if they advance, we can do this again.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Hope we can talk again soon. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs.
Henry Yoho covers the Tampa Bay Lightning for boltsbythebay.com. Boltsbythebay.com. You can follow him on Twitter at the aforementioned Bolts by the Bay. If I'm a Lightning fan, I'm still okay.
He asked a great question on Twitter last night to the Lightning fan. You okay with 2-1 this way as opposed to being tied 1-1 and down 2-1? They won one game. They feel as if they have momentum. You and I don't like to use that word a whole hell of a lot. But as opposed to being 1-1 New York and losing game 3, if you're a Lightning fan, do you feel better about being down 2-1 this way? I would.
Yeah. I think it's more important that they played their best hockey of the series in the final 30 minutes of the game. They started dictating to the Rangers for really the first sustained period of the series. They had played 85 plus minutes where the best they could do was essentially a stalemate at times. And for a lot of times, the Rangers were the ones doing the dictating. And I felt that the Rangers were worn out at the end of regulation. I thought the Rangers were just trying to get to the locker room, Mark. A lot of lazy, tired passes, not a lot of effort to extend to get their sticks on pucks to avoid icings. I thought the Rangers were spent at the end of that game, and I thought the Lightning were coming and coming and
Well,
coming.
and I don't know if it's with just the fact that the Lightning played with a little more jam. You know, that's the first time they've gone to the net with that type of effort in the entire series. And obviously, Gerard Gallant not happy about the way his goaltender is getting bumped around. But if I'm a Lightning fan, I'm excited about the fact that the way my hockey team's going to the net. Because there's 50 shots, and then there's 50 shots taken with aggression. And last night, they were you mentioned it earlier, David. They threw everything they could at the net, but they also chased the net after they were throwing it. There was always players standing by. They were whacking at Shesterkin throughout the game and bumped him several times. You know me, when a goalie's hot, that's the method that I would go with.
Another reason why I'm okay if I'm a Lightning fan is I'm looking at it this way. So we didn't give up a 5-on-5 goal, did we? If we don't give up 5-on-5 goals, it's going to be tough to lose this series. Yeah, I know we take the occasional penalty, and right now their power play is really good. But, you know, Mark, there are times in which you can have a playoff game in which there's only 2 penalties called against you. And it could be a physical 60-minute affair. I mean, I think the deeper you get into the playoffs also, the less slowly. First round, we still saw penalties called like it was the regular season. But I think now you're not seeing penalties called unless it's really obvious.
Well, and I think Tampa thought they earned a few more power plays than they actually had in yesterday's game. I think Tampa walks out of that game thinking they got the short end of the stick on the calls. Whether or not that's true is irrelevant. Tampa thinks that right now. Tampa thinks if they play the same way, that instead of having one less power play, they'll have 1 or 2 more power plays.
And so if I'm a Lightning fan, I mean, don't get me wrong, you got to win game 4. I mean, you don't want to go to New York down 3-1 and give the Rangers 1 shot out of 3 to advance because they're tough out right now. I mean, their goalie alone is capable of stealing that one game. But if you're a Lightning fan, I think, you know, sometimes just like the Rangers found themselves in these playoffs, that maybe the Lightning are beginning to find themselves against the Rangers. Forget everything else. Forget the 2.5 years. Just look at this series. They're getting better with every game. So if I'm a Lightning fan, I'm like, you know what? This is okay because we're getting better and they're slowly getting worse.
And the one thing, Braden Point coming back in would be so big because on that particular line, he's their best forechecker as well. The speed he possesses, even if he's not throwing the body around, just the speed he possesses getting in the zone can cause damage.
I do think it's a gimmick that Cooper can use if they fall behind later in the series. Like, say they lose game 4. I think it's a gimmick he can use for game 5. To give the room a jolt. I could also see, Mark, where if they say they even the series but lose game 5 in New York, I could see him putting Point in the lineup for game 6. Okay, just to give him, you know, a little jolt, a little something. Remember, Mark, that Stanley Cup final when they won against Dallas, Stamkos, 3 shifts in the deciding game, scored a goal. It'll be remembered forever in Lightning history. You know, Willis Reed played 4 minutes, Mark. 4 minutes in that game 7. 4.
Miller and Moulton, we thank you for listening. We will switch gears and talk the association. Brett Siegel will join us. He is covering the NBA for Fast Break on Fan Nation, a part of the SI Network. Will join us on the other side, and we will talk a little Yankees in the 8 o'clock hour as well. You want to text the show? The keyword is FSN Radio. The number is 21,000. Once you have done that, you're in, and you can text as much or as little as you would like. FSN Radio to 21,000. The text number for your thoughts on the interview we just had or any of the ones that are upcoming. And we thank you so much for listening to Miller and Moulton. Where else but right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Mark, we're playing golf.
Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up now.
I'd like to thank Budweiser, Twin Peaks, and Southwest Florida Golf Carts. Got some good stuff there, flgolfcarts.com.
Where are you going to go? floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up for our tournament Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Your golf will include your foursome and a chance to have lunch and awards after.
Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
So, David, I think you, as a huge fan of fast food, should go as one of the McDonald Land characters on Bourbon Street after the game. I'm thinking Grimace.
Well, I've got the body type, the big round face. I was always a big fan.
I mean, you're more of a hamburglar by nature, but body type, you're more of a Grimace.
I like it. So you want me to drag this costume into the Ritz-Carlton in New Orleans?
I want you to wear it in the booth, but I don't think that'll go over well. I think if you walked up as Grimace and stood next to Aikman in the booth, I think he'd fire you on the spot, and I don't think Buck would be able to do the broadcast. He'd laugh for 3 straight hours.
Thanks for listening to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah, Hubie does work for ESPN Radio, though, DC. And he does the lower level TV for ESPN, so.
Hubie Brown is great. See, what's his name? The hockey guy?
Melrose?
Melrose. How is he that bad at his age and Hubie Brown that
I
good
think
at
I
his
think because
age?
he got passed over for everything going on at ESPN. I'm telling you, he never used to be that bad. He used to be full of energy.
I know.
He was their hockey guy for 20 years.
Yes. Every time I'd see him on SportsCenter, I'm like,
And he always had a lot
hockey.
of energy, and he was fun, and he was funny.
Yeah. I don't follow hockey, and I have noticed.
Isn't Hubie doing it on radio? Who's doing
Yeah, he
ESPN Radio?
He does finals games on ESPN Radio. I'm pretty sure that's true. Oh, wow. Hold on.
What?
That's what Hubie does. He says, hold
No.
on. Hold on.
You just did it again, didn't you?
And then he'll break down the play.
Doris Burke would do the final before Hubie. I think the problem for those that are talking about the announcers aren't getting a game. I mean, it's really difficult to continue to have one game after another that's not competitive 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah, I think they were good for the first half. I mean, I watched the game until 7:30 left in the game. I went to bed. There was a TV timeout right around then, and I'm like, screw this, I'm going to bed. The announcers were fine in the first half. I actually thought the whole thing with the non-technical on Draymond Green and Van Gundy arguing with himself was hilarious television. I mean, Mark Jackson literally let Van Gundy argue his point for him. I thought that was really funny.
Hey, I'm going to connect you guys with Brett, and then I'm going to go to the bathroom because I really have to go.
Thanks for all that info.
I just wanted to let you know, don't be alarmed when I walk out of the room. Tickets.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Hour number 3 of Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Brett Siegel is kind enough to join us as we switch gears and talk a little association. Brett covers the NBA. Fast Break on Fan Nation. It's part of the Sports Illustrated umbrella. Fast Break on Fan Nation. You can follow Brett on Twitter. Brett with 2 T's, Siegel NBA. Brett Siegel NBA. Brett, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time. How are you?
Appreciate you guys. I'm doing well this morning.
Well, what'd you think you saw last night that was different from game one?
Well, we actually saw a very active Warriors defense, and defense translated to offense. And perhaps the best part about last night, for some at least, because he tends to get a lot of negativity and doesn't necessarily have the most fans, but that's Draymond Green. He had a tremendous game on both sides of the floor, and he really impacted this game. And he had his fingerprints all over it. I mean, defensively, he was a menace last night, switching on to literally anybody the Celtics wanted to throw at him. I mean, he was on Jason Tatum at times, he was on Marcus Smart at times, Jaylen Brown at times, and he found success against every single one of them. Then on the offensive end of the floor, he was all over the place as well, and he was just a complete dog, pushing guys out of the way, clearing space for Stephen Curry. He was able to affect the game on the offensive glass. Even though the finish was 0 offensive rebounds, he was creating opportunities for guys like Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, and others to get a couple extra offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities because of his ability to clear out the lane. And just his overall presence in this game was fantastic. He's one of the main reasons the Warriors have a chance to win another title, and he's one of the reasons why they were able to even up this series at 1-1. So overall, the defensive impact he brought, I think, was incredible in this game. And moving into Boston for games 3 and 4, he's going to have to play with that same intensity, even if he picks up a technical foul or two at times, because he's the heart and soul of this team. They go as far as he's able to help push them along emotionally.
Part of the reason why they were so effective. But what happened to Boston in your estimation in the third quarter? What did they do wrong to get blown out?
Well, I don't necessarily think it was just the third quarter. I think it was a culmination of everything that happened in this game. When you look at Jason Tatum, the game he had
he had 28 points, but only 3 assists. You look at what he did the previous game. I think he finished with 13 assists in that game, and he had 19 potential assists in that game. So that's really where the difference lied for me, was that A, the turnovers, and B, their assist numbers just weren't there in terms of what they were last game. They weren't moving the ball that well. Their offense seemed very stagnant at times, and it seemed like that the Warriors would throw a punch and Boston just would not have a response. And I think that's predicated because of what the Warriors did on the defensive end of the floor. They allowed Tatum and Jaylen Brown to kind of have their one-on-one opportunities and allowed them to get going. But who else did Boston really have in game 2? Al Horford, who scored 26 in game 1, only had 2 points on 1 of 4 shooting in game 2. Robert Williams, 1 of 1 shooting for 2 points. Marcus Smart, 1 of 6 for shooting for 2 points. So the Warriors really zoned in on taking away that secondary help. And they said to the Celtics, okay, your secondary depth destroyed us in game 1. We're going to let Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown do everything for you guys in game 2 because they're not going to score 100 points combined. And with the Celtics defense lacking last night, especially in the second half and not rotating as well, the Warriors really exposed them, and they made the Celtics offense look very weak. So that's definitely going to be a key talking point heading into game 3, is whether or not these secondary guys like Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams III, you can throw Derek White in there, even though he had a pretty decent night last night with 12 points. But can those guys get going again, or was game 1 just a fluke?
Well, Brett, you're taking me to where I was going to go. If it wasn't for the fourth quarter of game 1, I mean, should the Celtics, even though they're 1-1, be concerned about how the first 2 games have gone? Or should they just say, hey, listen, I don't know, we played a little tired. Maybe they wanted it a little bit more in game 2. Yeah, we're 1-1. We'll be fine. Which way would you look at this if you were part of the Celtics staff?
Well, I think I'd be pretty concerned because when you look at game 1, I just find it hard to believe that the only reason they won that game is because of what happened in the fourth quarter. And the Golden State Warriors, in my mind, should really be up 2-0 in the series right now because Al Horford and Derek White, they were spectacular in game 1. You can't take that away from them. But they made 11 combined threes. You're not going to see that again probably this entire season, entire next season, maybe the season after that if they're still together. You guys aren't going to combine for 11 threes ever again. So the Warriors, I personally think that they're in a good spot. I thought that they were in a decent spot for game 1. It's just one game, and everybody seems to be quick to write off series after one game. But it's now 1-1, and if the Warriors go into Boston in game 3 and win, they're going to be up 2-1, and all the pressure will again be on the Boston Celtics. So to kind of to round out your question there, should the Celtics be concerned? Yeah, I think that there should be a little bit of concern here, especially after how their offense looked with Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and Al Horford only combining for 6 points in game 2.
And Brett, you know, Golden State's done this with Klay Thompson not being all that effective. I mean, there's another gear for the Warriors, isn't there?
Yeah, Klay Thompson really needs to get going for them because he's really struggled early on in the series. And if they are to close out this series potentially in 5, 6, 7 games and championship, Klay Thompson's going to have to emerge and do something because you're not going to see the Celtics necessarily have off nights like they did with their secondary talents. I mean, we should expect to see production from Al Horford and Marcus Smart and Derek White, and maybe not the same level of production they had in game 1, but at least more than 6 points between those 3 guys, and White having 12, so a total of 20 points between those 4 guys. The Celtics are definitely going to get more than that on their home court. Role players tend to play better at home. So the Warriors are really going to have to step up offensively, and it's not Curry, Wiggins, or Draymond, or Poole that has to step up. It's Klay Thompson. He only has 26 combined points in the first 2 games. He's only shooting 32% in the series, 27% from three-point range. It just comes down to Klay being Klay. I mean, if Klay looked good in game 1, I think the Warriors wind up winning that game, and we're looking at this series being 2-0 heading to Boston. So it's 1-1. It is what it is. But the Warriors are definitely leaning on Klay Thompson to really produce. And I think that's why you saw him late in the game yesterday, still in the game, and without all the other starters. I think Steve Kerr was trying to send a message that he wanted Klay to get going. He didn't find his shot there, so it's going to be interesting to see if this affects his minutes at all, or if Klay Thompson can really get going, especially from beyond the arc heading into game 3.
He's Brett Siegel. He covers the NBA for Fast Break on Fan Nation, which is under the Sports Illustrated umbrella. Fast Break on Fan Nation. You can follow him on Twitter. Brett Siegel, Brett with 2 T's, Siegel, Brett Siegel NBA, and he joins us here on Miller and Moulton. I'm going to switch gears for a second. Quinn Snyder getting up and leaving Utah. Do you think there's a team and a job that he's setting himself up for? Or do you think that this is just a guy who, you know what, I'm not going to do this with Danny Ainge, and I think we've gone about as far as we could go. I'll just go home and see what opens up.
Yeah, a lot has gone on within the Utah Jazz organization over the last few years. I mean, you had them finishing with the best record in the NBA last year, and then they had that disappointing loss in the Western Conference Finals to the Clippers after they lost in 6 games, lost 4 straight. And then this year, they have 3 less wins, and they claim the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they lose in the first round of Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. So everything's been piling up for this organization. You've seen some turnover in the front office, some different opinions of who should go, who should stay. And Quinn Snyder, he's been mulling his future, I would say, probably since the All-Star break this year. It's been something that he's been looking at, and everything's just been boiling up for him, and he decided to step away. I don't think this is something where he's looking at another position at this time. I think that he truly would like to take time off and kind of figure out what he wants to do from here. So he's 55 years old. Family is very important to him, and taking this time to spend with his family and figure out the next chapter of his life, that's definitely something that had been in play ever since the offseason began. Now the question for the Jazz is, what does this mean for their roster, and what does this mean for the 2022-23 season? Because Donovan Mitchell is not necessarily happy that Quinn Snyder is not there. And last month I reported about some turmoil going on in the Utah Jazz front office with Donovan Mitchell, of him wanting a little bit more control and some outside factors playing a role in what his future may be, especially given his interest in the New York Knicks and some other teams as well. So I think this is definitely something that the Jazz need to be worried about, because if they don't hit a home run on this next head coaching hire, and if they don't bring in the guy that Donovan Mitchell approves of and likes, I think we could be seeing the all-star shooting guard on the move within the next year or two.
Brett, thanks for making time for us, particularly at this hour. Hopefully we can do this again down the road.
Absolutely. You guys take it easy.
Brett Siegel covers the association. It's Fast Break on Fan Nation. It's part of the Sports Illustrated Network. Fast Break on Fan Nation. Follow Brett on Twitter, Brett with 2 T's, Siegel, Siegel, Brett Siegel, NBA. Brett Siegel joining us here on Miller and Moulton.
Boston back home. I think this is going to be 2-2 when it goes back to Golden State, because they've played 7 average quarters to bad quarters, if you will. I think they'll get more scoring out of Horford at home. I think they'll take a deep look at this one, figure out how to move the ball around. I do think their best bet's game 3, though. I think the way these series go, what their adjustments are, I think their best bet, if they lose game 3, they could find themselves in for a lot of trouble and be done in 5.
I'd be surprised if Boston was swept at home. I'd be more surprised by that than if Golden State got swept in Boston. I'm with you. Listen, we both picked Warriors in 7, and I think we were both thinking 1-1, 2-2, and then let's see how it plays out from there. If I'm Golden State, though, I'd feel a little better, because I'm thinking, man, we let one get away in the fourth quarter of game 1, but otherwise, you know what? We're playing pretty well, and Klay Thompson hasn't gotten untracked yet, so we still have another level that we can reach. Meanwhile, if you're Boston, one thing I will say, you haven't had their big 2 both have good games on the same night. And I think for them to win this series, Mark, I think their big 2 are going to have to play big at the same time.
There's no doubt. You can't beat Golden State halfway home, if you know what I mean. They're too strong offensively. They get scoring from too many bodies. And, for that matter, Klay Thompson hasn't played. Well, Wiggins didn't play all that well last night. He didn't make many shots. So offensively, I still think Golden State has another gear, which is scary to me, because they're still, the numbers they're getting to are plenty to win. But 109 in game 1 in the loss. So, offensively, they don't need more, but they have more to me.
I don't think anybody should panic with the Celtics. First off, they're 8-3 on the road in the playoffs, and think about who they've had to play: Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Miami, Golden State. They're obviously a really good team. They're a really tough out. This is likely going to be a long, close series. Of course, we don't know if any of the games are going to be close. This series may be, but not the games.
Yeah, we're 1-1. Looking for a fourth quarter that's competitive. We'll see if we get one in game 3. It's Miller and Moulton. We thank you so much for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Mark, we're playing golf.
Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up now.
I'd like to thank Budweiser, Twin Peaks, and Southwest Florida Golf Carts. Got some good stuff there. flgolfcarts.com.
Where are you going to go? floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up for our tournament Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Your golf will include your foursome and a chance to have lunch and awards after.
Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
See, DC, I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, Tatum gives you 26 more points per game that you could be having at the same time. And, down the stretch situations, you need a bucket. Who do you want the ball to be in the hands of? Yeah, Dre, I don't know, man. The thing about F1 is that I wish there was more of a level playing field. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's Red Bull, it's Ferrari, and it's McLaren, and maybe Mercedes, but mainly Red Bull and Ferrari. And I know that that's a money thing and engineers and blah, 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 but I don't know. Hopefully one of these races we can get just the most unexpected win. DC, that's a good point. Then I'm sure you love LeBron because he does exactly that.
What do you got here?
Nothing would be my initial answer.
Okay.
Oh, CJ McCollum. He's on Get Up. Pretty sure he studied journalism at Lehigh.
By the way, did Greeny shave his beard?
I didn't pay attention to him when they showed him on the screen. They're showing Lamar Jackson running right now, so I'll keep an eye out.
Hey,
He's not on.
Did you catch the little situation that ESPN got themselves into?
I think I know what you're talking about, but
The Tennessee baseball player?
what did they do?
They had said that he had tested positive for PEDs. And they said on the air that they're basically going on rumor. Well, it turned out not to be true.
Wow.
He was just sick. Missed a game, came back the next day.
Yeah, that is a little different than PEDs.
Greeny's not on.
Well, I didn't think he would be. I was just wondering if
He had a beard last night, didn't he? Tells you how much of halftime I watched.
It's like that scene from The Office where it's like, does Stanley have a mustache? It's like, yeah, right?
I'm going to go with this for a little bit.
Okay.
15 seconds. Come back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes after the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Scott Reinen covers the Yankees, does the Yankees podcast. He'll join us in a little more than 15 minutes' time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Yankees are on pace to win 117 games. This is the best 54-game start, which is 1/3 of a baseball season. This is the best 54-game start to a season since the 2001 Mariners, the Yankees, who just swept a homestand. I got to give Toronto and Tampa Bay a little bit of credit for hanging in there. I mean, they're a ways back, but, what are they, around 7.5 back? But, I mean, when a team's playing the best baseball anybody's played in over 20 years, that's pretty good to still kind of sort of be there. But anyway, we'll talk a little Yankees, a little baseball coming up in a little more than 15 minutes. Listen, the college baseball tournament got underway Friday. And for what it's worth, 16 4-team regionals, and only 5 of them have been decided. There are 11 games today, which will determine the vast majority of who's advancing to the super regionals of the NCAA baseball tournament. But one of the teams that's advanced, Mark, is number 1 Tennessee. They had about as good a regular season as we've seen a college baseball team have this century. But did you hear what happened in their first round game?
I did hear this, that, what was it? They were on ESPN or one of the
yeah.
Plus, or, because this whole thing's on, these regionals are all over the place. And
I think they were on ESPN because they're the number 1 team in the country and they've got a big following. So I think they were on the main channel.
And one of their players wasn't playing.
Evan Russell, their catcher.
Mm-hmm.
missed the game. And so their head coach, Tony Vitello, said, well, I got to be honest, I don't quite know what's going on. I got to talk to the team doctor, but we knew when we left the hotel that he was sick. And we just found out that, I got a message from Doc and he's not playing today. So, I'll find out more when we get back to the hotel and I'll update it tomorrow, but he's back at the hotel. He's sick. He's not playing today. Well, that turned out not to be the story. I mean, don't get me wrong. That was the story, but that's not what the ESPN announcers accepted as the truth. Apparently, there was rumor and innuendo going on, I don't know, on site. Somebody started a rumor that he tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs and he's suspended.
An analyst, Troy Eklund, claimed not only that he was missing the games for PEDs, but he was suspended for the remainder of the season, and that the NCAA now planned on testing the entire Tennessee baseball team as a result of the suspension. He did this on air.
Correct. By the way, there was no substantiation of it at all. I mean, this was just rumor. And on the air, the ESPN announcer said that the catcher failed the performance-enhancing drug test, and now this was going to lead to widespread testing and possible future punishment. And remember, this is the number one team in the country, and if this was true, think about what everyone in the sport would then start thinking. That, this guy's the only one on the team doing PEDs? ... Maybe it helps explain why they're kicking everybody's butt. ... Right.
Saturday morning, Tennessee put a statement out. It said Evan Russell's absence last night had nothing to do with any violation of team, NCAA, or SEC rules. We've been in contact with ESPN, and they are aware of the situation regarding last night's comments made on their broadcast. ESPN is handling the situation. We are expecting a public apology from them later today.
Now, they got it. The Eklund went on TV on Saturday and he said, hey, I used inaccurate, unsourced information. I was a mistake. Shouldn't have done it. I regret any hurt or harm that it might have caused. Okay. Listen, we know the society that we live in today. There was a time where you could screw up and you could go on air within 24 hours and apologize, and for the most part, people would go, hey, I get it. Don't do it again, all right? But it also happened to be within 24 hours of Johnny Depp winning his suit against Amber Heard. And the first thing that a lot of people who've been paying attention to that trial then did was, well, hell, if Depp can win $10 million or whatever the hell he won against his ex-wife, this kid could sue ESPN for millions.
The lawsuit thing, take that away for a second. There's making a mistake on air and apologizing for it. There is then delivering statements as fact with nothing backing them up that are damning to a person that I don't know if the announcer can recover from this. If I'm ESPN, I can't put him on a college baseball game after this, not for a long while, if ever.
Yeah, I'm very surprised, and I am not joking when I say this. I am very surprised that everyone involved is still working. This is a major mistake. And the analyst is not saying this without talking it over with the play-by-play guy, number one. Number two, the analyst is not saying this without getting the okay from the producer. So there are three main people involved, even though if one was the one that delivered the information. And I am shocked that no one's been fired. Or at the very least, suspended for the rest of the series. Mark, I am surprised that two new announcers were not flown in for Saturday and Sunday in Knoxville or wherever it was they were having that. I'm guessing it was in Knoxville that they were having that regional.
And
I really am.
You know, Troy Eklund is the announcer's name. David, you follow college baseball a lot more closely. Was he planning on being at the College World Series after this? Is he their A guy? If he's on ESPN, it would lead me to believe if you're doing the number one team, you're the guy that's supposed to be going to the World Series, at least in the beginning of it.
Yeah, I don't think he's the A guy. Remember, they got to have 16 teams for this. They just put Tennessee on ESPN because they'll attract the most viewers. But usually when you get to the College World Series, some of the big boys raise their hand and they say, no, that assignment's mine. So I don't think he was going to get Omaha. But, this is a mistake. This is a guy who did, I don't know, caught a 24-hour flu, food poisoning, whatever it was. And they went on national TV and said he failed for performance-enhancing drugs. He's suspended the rest of the year. What? Where did you get that?
Right. In Eklund's apology that he put on Twitter, I made a statement on air today. Again, I want to extend my most sincere apologies to Evan Russell and his family, Coach Vitello, and the entire Vols organization and fan base for the comments I made in error yesterday. I know Coach, and he believes, and I believe he knows where my heart is coming from, and that I didn't mean to cause any harm. Really? That's worse than saying nothing, that you didn't mean to cause any harm. You went on the air and said someone's been suspended for the year for steroids, but I didn't mean to cause any harm.
I didn't mean to cause any harm. You went with completely unsubstantiated rumor. I would like to...
He's pissed it's that coach because he basically said you're doing a bunch of steroid junkies.
I would like to know 10 more seconds of information. Before you go on the air and say something like this, you have to talk with somebody from the Tennessee baseball program. A coach, an AD, a trainer, somebody. And if he did, they had to have denied it, right?
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts, flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com, flgolfcarts.com.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Dratherion, we did. They drew nearly 45,000 for the 3-game set against the Red Sox. Attendance went down every day, though. They did like 17 and change Friday, 14 and change Saturday, 12,000 Sunday. But yes. And I love the fact we're celebrating that a Major League Baseball team
drew 35,000 for the weekend or whatever.
Right. Drew 15,000 a game on the first weekend in June
against the Boston and
Red Sox.
They only go out there once.
Right.
This just in, Boston's got a pretty solid fan base.
Who circled that sucker on the calendar when 6 months ago.
Were you watching live? Did you think Draymond should have got a second tee?
No.
Thought that was officiating.
Yeah, I agreed with who's their
ref there. I agreed with everything he said. I thought that was great television for the record, too.
I did, too, because I forget who it was who asked him, hey, when you're going through this, do you keep in mind that so-and-so's got a technical? He goes, oh, absolutely, I do.
And it was great because Jackson totally disagreed. I mean, everything about that was compelling, a compelling 2 minutes of television. That was good.
Yeah, both the Orioles and the Pirates are kind of hanging around. I mean, they're both below 500, but they're
David.
Hey, Red Sox are back to 5.
Baseball is under 500.
I know. Hey, folks, Red Sox would make the playoffs today at 500
with a dented refrigerator from Cleveland, just because he went, folks.
Folks.
Hey, folks.
Hello, friends. But the Angels, losers of 11 in a row. So much for being 10 games above 500. Ouch.
That's unbelievable.
It is. Trout's in a slump.
Someone said it in here. Is Madden on the hot seat? I think it's a valid point. I know he's the super god manager, but you just lost 11 in a row, dude.
Here's the problem, though. The owner hired Madden because the guy who's the GM of the Mets was GM of the Angels when Madden got hired. He didn't want to hire Madden. He wanted to hire Showalter. The owner said, no, you're hiring Joe Madden.
But the owner has lost 11 in a row, too.
I understand, but I'm guessing the owners got Joe's back. But then again, we've already had a manager fired, and once that happens...
There you go.
Come on. Miller and Moulton deserve a little credit for Joe Girardi there.
Moulton
come on now.
All the credit for that.
Come on now. We were all over that. We saw that one coming a week out.
Yeah, I immediately thought of you guys when I saw the report.
I will say, though, Dombrowski picks the perfect time. All right. A, he's got a team coming in who's lost 8 in a row. B, he's got 2 of his 3 best pitchers geared up and ready to pitch in the series. And the Braves are over 500, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, feel free.
I can't hear you.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Florida Sports Network and floridasportsnetwork.com. Scott Reinen's kind enough to join us. He does the Bronx Pinstripes Yankees podcast. He's got a whole podcast network going. We should have called Scott earlier, Mark. You can follow Scott on Twitter at Scott Reinen, Reinen. Scott, thanks for making time for us. It's David and Mark. How are you?
Gentlemen, how are we doing this morning?
Well, we're doing fine, and I'm guessing that the downloads and the clicks are up because the Yankees are playing their best baseball, arguably, of the century. Scott, they started 5-5. What's going on here?
Yeah, it seems like everything's working well for this team. I mean, their pitching is downright elite right now, and I think when you walk into the season with the starting five that they had, I don't think a lot of people were expecting the type of results that they're getting right now. You know, I know the bullpen has been a strength for the Yankees for years, and going into the season, I think everybody understood that. But this starting pitching is really the story so far early in the season. They've been able to pick up the Yankees in moments when the offense isn't there. But again, we've been going pretty well for the first couple months of the season. Offense has been humming pretty decent, and yeah, the whole pitching staff is really keyed in.
Scott, but that is, I mean, it's such a shock because of the people that I talk to that are Yankees fans and follow this team closely. They were scared to death before the season of their starting pitching staff. They had no idea what to expect. So what happened?
Well, I think if you go back even into the last year and look at what Nestor Cortes has done, from the second half of the year throughout, his last start, he's been extremely good. So I think the Yankees internally had a very good feeling about what he was. Jameson Taillon is another year past his surgery, and has really built up arm strength and was very good in a few different spurts last year. But he's definitely putting it all together. And then Montgomery is a guy that's just he's been solid ever since he's been up. He's been a guy that's been able to get through 5, 6, 7 innings, and he's taking that next step. So the fact that we have those guys there, and then Luis Severino, who we haven't seen in 3 years. But the last time we did see him was, one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. The guy's coming out and, has made it a point to stay healthy. That's his number one goal is to stay healthy this season. And if he can do that, we're going to have a damn good pitching staff all the way through, because a healthy Luis Severino is a very, very good pitcher. And obviously Garrett Cole leading the staff. It's been working well. It's been working well. I don't want to jinx too many things.
It's been working better than that. The Yankees 39-15. That's exactly at the 1/3 pole of the season, on pace for 117 wins. This is the best start to a season since the 01 Mariners. We're talking Yankees with Scott Reinen. He's got the Bronx Pinstripes Yankees podcast, the Bronx Pinstripes Yankees podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Scott with 2 T's, Reinen, Reinen. All right. And feel free to come after me when I throw this out there. But is it possible that you got everything going right and the Yankees are way over their skis right now? I mean, to expect these pitchers to not just produce for 6 months, Scott, but let's face it, the Yankees are all about October. I mean, these guys all have to have 7 months in them. Do you think these guys right now are staying healthy and pitching out of their minds, or do you think that, hey, this is their staff and this will be their staff in 4 months? Get used to it.
I mean, injuries can absolutely happen, and they tend to happen every single year to every ball club. So I think that when you look at what the team is, you have to look at the depth as well. And when you look at some of the guys that they have in AAA, they have even in the bullpen right now with Clark Schmidt, they have guys that they can go to for extra innings. And I do think that they're going to have to, dip into their pool in either AAA or get some guys stretched out further in the bullpen, because there are some innings limits on some of the guys. Severino, like I said, hasn't pitched in 3 years. Taillon has a bit of a limit on him as well. So you're going to see some, I think, manipulation of that starting five at some point during the season. But for the most part, you're looking at the guys. I mean, there's no room to bring anybody else up right now because everybody is going well. So when you look at the way that the team is going overall, I mean, 117 wins is ridiculous. Do I think that they can pull that off? Probably not. If these guys are over 100 games and they are, I think they are going to be right there in it for the AL East and competing. I do expect the Herd to kind of follow and get a little closer at some point. Their season has been favorable as far as the schedule. There's no doubt they have a tough June coming up. So we'll see what happens before the All-Star break. But I think once we go into the All-Star break and we get past this June stretch, we'll see what this team is made of, because then Brian Cashman has the ability to go out and fill a gap or reload in any way around the trade deadline to, fill a spot if there is one needed for this team at the deadline.
I understand David's points completely, because it is all about October. But when I watch the Yankees play, they don't seem to be that type of team. Even the last couple of years, this seems to be a team that has a lot of fun. That's not normally what we think of. We think of a Yankee team, huge payroll, very serious, all about October, nothing else matters. But this baseball team seems to have a little bit different makeup. They seem to have a little more kid-friendly attitude, even though the payroll's there, obviously, and even though the expectations are there. Do they realize the expectations every day? I mean, it's tough not realizing it playing in New York, but this club seems to be a little different than most Yankee teams.
No doubt, they're having fun. I mean, winning is fun as well.
Absolutely.
You put a winning record in front of any team, and you'll probably expect them to be having some fun. But talking to the makeup of the team, Brian Cashman took a lot of heat in the offseason for not going after one of the big shortstops. They brought in IKF via trade. Josh Donaldson obviously came along with that. But what this team has done and what Cashman did is he changed the lineup makeup, the feel of the lineup. There are guys that are more bat to ball. They're not as home run dependent. They're still hitting home runs, but they're not as home run dependent. Everybody's so worried about the lefty-righty matchup. I'm more worried about, do we have guys that complement each other in the way and the style that they play? And I think that they have satisfied that. Not to mention they brought Anthony Rizzo back in. This is a guy who knows winning, won in Chicago, has that veteran leadership. So you got that youthful exuberance with some of the young guys, but you have that veteran leadership and guys who have been there and done that. Judge taking another step forward in his leadership. This team is built right now to withstand a season, and it gives me some memories of what 2017 looked like, 2017, when they had guys like Todd Frazier, Matt Holliday. They're bringing in some guys that know how to win, have been there before, and can kind of guide the ship to what they think is a deep playoff run.
Talking Yankees with Scott Reinen here on Miller and Moulton. And it should be pointed out, the Yankees have kept on winning. And granted, they've played, the Angels when they were scuffling, and they just got the Tigers. But, Chapman on the IL, Stant was on the IL for the last week and a half, and they're still winning. So they've even had some injuries, and they're still persevering through it. Andujar sent down, and he requested a trade. A lot of us wondering why it is they keep Gallo over him. Gallo does hit a 2-run homer yesterday, which certainly helped them in their come-from-behind win over Detroit. But where do you think the Yankees do with Miguel Andujar, and whether or not they should keep him and cut somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the frustrations of Yankees fans. There's no doubt about it. When you watch Joey Gallo put together, 20 at-bats, and one or two of them are decent and the other 18 are throwaways, that's when it gets very frustrating. You got a guy like Miguel Andujar, who was, right there for Rookie of the Year a few years back with, he was a doubles machine, and he's healthy. He's actually playing a pretty decent left field. They moved him from third to the outfield, but he just doesn't give enough flexibility, I think, for where their roster is. And he's got an option, so they're able to send him down. The trade requests and all that. I mean, the Yankees are in they have no obligation to do any of that, nor do I think they should, because he's an important depth piece. I think he's going to be back up and play an important role at some point. And who knows what happens at the deadline? If they were to detach themselves from Joey Gallo, who's here for this year and this year only, he's not under contract for the Yankees and will not be on this team more than likely next year. I would personally have zero problem with that, and giving Andujar some more time.
Well, and Scott, do you think that the Yankees just did, and for those, I'm a Mets fan, and the Mets had an issue 3 weeks ago in which they had Robinson Cano, which was their high-priced veteran, and they had their young guy, Dominic Smith. Now, they decided to cut Cano and keep Smith. All right. And it seems like the Yankees just decided for now to make the opposite choice. Couldn't you see, if Gallo continues to perform the way he is, which is hitting like $170, and until yesterday being unproductive. Do you think, Scott, that this is like just giving Gallo 2-3 more weeks to try to keep his roster spot, and then they just move on from him and bring Andujar back?
I don't think so, because I think they know what they were getting from Joey Gallo. They know that he's this type of player. I think he's definitely started slower than you'd expect. You expect more production, especially in the power numbers from him. But Andujar is no spring chicken either. I think that when you look at the situation with Cano, you kind of knew what Cano's an aging veteran. The guy's certainly lost the abilities that he used to have as a baseball player. He's now being cut again in San Diego. So I think it's a different situation. I think there's definitely a longer leash with Joey Gallo, and they're not in a position where they have to, because Andujar has an option. They're not pressed to make a decision as of right now.
Scott, thanks for doing this for the first time. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it more often.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Scott Reinen, all right, he created, Mark, I hinted at it at the beginning, he created Blue Wire Pods. It's actually a sports media network with hundreds of podcasts on it.
You can get ours at floridasportsnetwork.com. Florida Sports Network. If you missed any of the show, including our interview with Scott, download it at floridasportsnetwork.com.
And then also he does that whole, the Bronx Pinstripes Yankees podcast deal. But, he's actually kind of a media, maven there. And then, I think to entertain himself, he does the Yankees thing. He went we a couple times. So he showed his true colors.
He did. And when Felipe starts his Miami Heat podcast, it will sound very reminiscent to that podcast.
And Felipe, tell you what, we now have the guy to send you to. And in fact, we will say to Scott, listen, we had you on. All right. We've listened to your Yankees podcast. You throw the we thing out there liberally. So we got a perfect guy for you with the Miami Heat. I'd like to introduce you to.
Just respectfully biased.
Is that how you sign the email? Okay. Instead of sincerely, respectfully biased, Felipe Alvarez.
Respectfully. If you know me, you'll understand.
Is that what you put at the bottom of the emails to try to get us all these credentials that we're not getting? That you may want to change it. Instead of to sincerely or wait to hear back from you, why don't you just put respectfully biased?
Apparently he's putting all the best, which I've heard by a lot of people is the kiss of death when you throw that on there. All the best is kind of like the Southern, and I just had a mind cramp. Bless your heart. The Southern bless your heart, which we all know what that typically means. So all the best is kind of the same thing.
Well, I feel like there's different ones for different situations, but what's the all-around best one?
For what? Signing a letter?
Yeah.
Regards.
Best regards?
Yeah. Either regards or best regards. Warmest personal regards if I'm really trying to step my game up.
You can just put regards by itself?
Yes, you
yes.
can. Here's why you can't go all the best anymore. It may have been okay about 10 or so years ago, but now what does everyone do when they fire you? They wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Almost. Almost. Everyone gets that, David.
Almost.
I just know that the last time that we were dismissed.
The last two.
In fact,
actually, the last two.
The last two. Which is great because one tries to claim they didn't even fire us.
Right.
But put out an email to the entire company that could not describe us as bigger POSs than they did.
Right.
No, all the best.
Right. They try to claim that we walked out on them, yet they sent the email that said, take all their stuff, throw it in a can, and light it on fire.
Burn it now.
Which was funny because when we left the meeting, we said, see you tomorrow. So that's why
revisionist history that went on inside.
Right.
It's thank goodness there was someone else that was not the one doing it, or Miller or Moulton, that actually can tell a true account of exactly what happened. Not to mention I've got the internal emails. Sorry, guys. People like us.
So that was, we didn't get all the best in your future endeavors.
Nope.
And then, of course, from our first act, we didn't get that either. So we're Miller and Moulton wishing you all the best.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Mark, we're playing golf.
Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up now.
I'd like to thank Budweiser, Twin Peaks, and Southwest Florida Golf Carts. Got some good stuff there, flgolfcarts.com.
Where are you going to go? floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up for our tournament Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Your golf will include your foursome and a chance to have lunch and awards after.
Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So, David, this was the text I got from my buddy Brian Smiggins. He's a member at a course called Egypt Valley in Grand Rapids. He says Smithson from MSU golf team and current Michigan Open champ is a member at Egypt. Says James Payat, or whatever his name is, from MSU, got $4.5 million to play in the LIV.
Wow.
And I mean, and this guy knows him, so I'm guessing this is. And I was reading an article in The Athletic or somewhere that they're guessing he got between 2 and 6. So that fits right in with what a guy who hasn't shot around under par yet on tour and has missed 3 cuts as he's been, given his status.
Yeah, he said 1 even par round, and every other round he's played has been over par.
78, 75. I mean.
Right. And quite frankly, looks like the U.S. Amateur win was a bit of an out-of-body experience when you look at the rest of his.
Yes, totally.
Like, he seems to be the golfer that peaked in high school and earlier in his college career. That here, either that or he's just having a really bad 2022.
And what a smart move to go grab the money.
Yeah, Drutharian, here's my thought. I said it earlier, much earlier in the show. I think Na did it, not just to give him the middle finger, although in his statement, there was a line in which he was like, listen, I really don't think you guys have the right to be as heavy-handed as you are. But I think he's doing it because if he's no longer a member of the PGA Tour, if the PGA Tour and or the other majors are going to penalize PGA Tour and European Tour players for playing in this series, what Na's doing is saying, well, I'm not a PGA Tour player. Like there's a couple of people in this thing who don't have status on the PGA Tour or the European Tour.
Like this Piot kid doesn't have any status.
Correct.
He's getting sponsors. I'll tell you what, you want to talk about having no chance. So you basically got a sponsors exemption to Jack's tournament, and you're leaving to go to the LIV the next week. That's not a great look. It's kind of giving Jack a big FU.
No doubt. Just saying, hey, I'm using you for the rounds and I'm out of here.
Right. It's just.
But like this David Puig kid, he's the Arizona State kid who just won the NCAA championship, I think, last year. And Arizona State just finished second to Texas for the national championship. He's still planning on staying an amateur. He's just playing this event like it's the British Amateur. There's 2 amateurs in this field of 48.
That is one of the most violent,
oh my God.
sporting
So
events.
they've got this thing on Get Up of people chasing this cheese ball down a hill. And I mean, it's basically like a ski slope, and they are just rolling at
Yes.
pretty high rates of speeds down the hill. That guy looked like he was hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just going off to the right there. Or
I think they've been doing that for hundreds of
probably
years too.
Hey, I'll tell you what, that could be Moulton's event right there.
10 seconds. No, I like the bull racing more. No, the bull running.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us on this Monday, the 6th of June, a rather historic day in not just our nation's history, but in Western civilization's history as we know it, the 78th anniversary of D-Day. Thank goodness for that and how well it worked out.
This is always the day in which, now that I'm back to doing today was a day when, that I don't feel you should do one. I think you should just say June 6th and move on. Are there other historical facts that even matter on today? If you know what I mean. And there's plenty. There's a lot of good stuff.
Yes.
A lot of juicy stuff here. But it's, as I'm doing it early this morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking at this going, why am I filling all this crap out? Can't I just say D-Day and call it a day?
Well, there are 3 or 4 days in our nation's history that really do stand out above the others. And this is one of them, even though there was a tragedy on this day, but it also turned out to be one of the greatest days, and why the world is what the world is right now, despite all its issues. This just in, if 78 years ago hadn't gone well, things could have gotten worse.
Put it this way, we're not talking about this quarterback trying to get ready for OTAs. That's all I know. Just that alone, David. Where's American football? But we still have a little hoop and hockey to talk about. Golden State last night, a Game 2 victory, even in the series, up at 1 game apiece. The Tampa Bay Lightning with a gutsy win yesterday afternoon at home. They're down 2-1 to the Rangers. They were down 2-0 in the game. Second period, rally for 2 goals, and then a late goal in the third period, 42 seconds left to give the Lightning the win and close the series to within a game, 2-1 in favor of the New York Rangers.
I thought their stars were stars yesterday. Stamkos with a goal and an assist, Kucherov with a goal and 2 assists, a beautiful assist on the game-winning goal by Palat with 42 seconds to go. Thought Hedman and McDonough played the way that they have to. The Rangers may be good enough, Mark, where the Lightning's role players can't necessarily win this series. Maybe the next week may have to be the Lightning stars. Like they beat Toronto game 7 with basically their third line. Their third line won that game with their goalie and Hedman and McDonough clearing the puck every chance they get. The Rangers may be good enough where the Lightning stars are going to have to carry them through this series. And then theoretically, when you look at Colorado, you know what, guys, you might as well get used to it because you're going to have to play big in that series also.
Vasilevsky was great yesterday. Couple of different series of a barrage of saves that he made, one in the second period, one in the third, and throughout the game was very good. Found himself after 2 lackluster performances by his own standards in games 1 and 2. So it was good to see the netminder for Tampa get back to form because they are going to need it, quite frankly, if they're going to get out of this series.
If I'm a Lightning fan, I'm feeling okay because we're getting better as the series goes on, and the Rangers may have trouble keeping the level that they were at the end of the Carolina series and the first 2 games into this series. That the Lightning may be bringing the Rangers down to their level, in which, when we said this heading into the playoffs, we thought the Panthers were not a sure thing in the playoffs because the Panthers' regulation point total was only 7th or 8th best in the league. The Panthers may have won the President's Trophy, but them and the Minnesota Wild garnered a lot of points after regulation. And sure enough, Wild went out in the first round and the Panthers went out meekly in the second. But the Rangers are not a good 5-on-5 team. And the Lightning, I thought yesterday, Mark, brought the Rangers back down to their earth, so to speak. The goalie is great. Their power play is tremendous. 5-on-5, they're okay, but they're not really good.
And we'll see if the war of attrition starts for the Rangers. This is now a 7-game series, This is their 3rd series that looks as if it will go 6 or 7 games as well. And it's what my point has always been about the hockey postseason is that there's nothing better than the first round of the NHL postseason, but just by the physicality and the nature of the game that the playoffs can't maintain that level. Can the Rangers maintain that level here in round 3 where they've already had 2 incredibly grueling series that they've had to come from behind to win?
In game 5 of their second round series against Carolina, they got beat 3-1, and their head coach said after the game, I thought we were tired today. We've played a lot of hockey. I thought we were tired. I thought the Rangers in the final 10 minutes were tired. To me, a lot of bad passes and couldn't even reach them with their sticks, and then passes that you thought guys would at least be able to get a stick on to prevent the icing. They couldn't. I thought the Rangers looked tired, where remember, the Lightning had the 9-day layoff. Lightning aren't tired. Lightning are actually now finding their legs again. So I'm okay if I'm a Tampa fan down 2-1. Mark, you and I have followed this sport for a long time. The Lightning are doing something that hasn't been done since Edmonton in the late 80s, the Islanders in the early 80s. I remember a couple times the Islanders had brutal series, usually against the Rangers, and actually came out in the next round and trailed. I remember one year they had a brutal series with the Rangers, won it, because they almost always won it. And then they played the Quebec Nordiques in the conference finals and actually lost games 1 and 2 in the conference finals. And then it was almost like the Islanders looked at one another and said, okay, are we done with the Rangers series? Can we get our heads in the Quebec series? And then they swept from there.
It was a great story Gretzky told on air about losing to the Islanders the final time that he did and walking down the hallway at the Nassau Coliseum and thinking there was going to be this great, gigantic celebration going on as they passed by the Islanders locker room. And he said, it showed us what it takes to win, because while maybe staff and other people were celebrating, the players were all in there. And he said they were celebrating, but they were celebrating with ice bags on their knees and ice bags on their back and ice bags, sitting in ice tubs. And he realized at that moment just how hard it was. And he even said, he says, it's easier to lose. It's harder to win the championship. And I think that's what Tampa knows right now, how hard it is to win a championship. And the Rangers have no idea. None whatsoever. They're actually, you're the Ranger guy, but they're a full year ahead of schedule, are they not?
Yes, and there's very few players left on the team that in 2012 and 14 and 15 went to 3 conference finals and 1 Stanley Cup final. I mean, you're basically talking Chris Kreider and not much else. I mean, in fact, I think there's more Rangers from those years on the Lightning right now than there are on the Rangers. So, yes, and they hadn't made the playoffs for 4 years. So this whole group is experiencing something that for the most part, they certainly have not experienced together, and most of them have not experienced in their careers.
And while that kid line has been spectacular, that kid line's now realizing that they're going into their 18th game in this postseason, and they're just halfway into their 3rd series. It gets harder and harder, and Tampa's well aware of that. And it will, to me, ultimately be the difference if Tampa can do what I think they're going to do, and that's win this series in 7 games.
Game 4 tomorrow night in Tampa. It'll either be 2-2 or 3-1 going to New York. And we'll see how the Rangers handle it. They had been on a roll here. They had won 4 games in a row. And also, this is now a little different scenario for the Rangers. You know, they hadn't led in either one of the 2 series that they won until they won. You know, they lost game 1 against Pittsburgh, won game 2, but then lost the next 2. So until they scored the overtime goal in game 7, they literally did not lead in the series. Well, against Carolina, lost the first 2, tied it, lost, tied it. It was not until they won game 7 that they were leading in the series. Now here they are playing with the lead and having to knock out the champions. And ask the Toronto Maple Leafs how close you can come to knocking out the champions and be golfing now for 3+ weeks.
And on the other side, for no one paying attention, Colorado could tonight be done with Edmonton. This thing could be all over. 3-0. They, after that wild first game, 9-6, have really just shut down the Edmonton Oilers. Jared Bednar and his team defensively 4-0 in the second game and just doing what no one else has been able to do, David. They've been able to slow down Connor McDavid, at least after game 1.
And doing it also with a backup goalie. And it will be interesting. What do you do if you're, Bed's there? You're going to win this series either in 4 or 5. And then you're going to get your number 1 goalie back healthy in time for the finals.
After he had his worst performance of the postseason, gives up 6 even in a win when he was injured in the game 1 against Calgary. David, I'd go with the kid they're playing now. And this is where the tandem comes in play. I was lucky enough one time in my life to work for a team that won a championship. And we had a game similar to this where the goaltender got shelled and they put in the backup. And the backup ended up winning for a month. And then all of a sudden, in the finals, we found ourselves down 5-0, and I think it was a game 4, and put the original starter back in, who helped us to a triple overtime 7-6 victory. So, David, I don't think you ever know when you're going to get called upon as a goaltender. I would stay with the hot hand right now if I were Colorado.
And the Avs know if they beat Edmonton, they'll have home ice for the Stanley Cup final, because they ended up with the 2nd most points in the league, second only to the Panthers. And of course, we know where they are. And Mark, I will say it again, with every day that goes by, I think you can dump on the Panthers more. Wow. For a team that won the President's Trophy, with what has gone on in these playoffs. And I know it was the Lightning that did it to them, and the Lightning are capable of doing it to probably everybody. But man, oh man, their performance in the second round is looking worse by the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Are they capable of doing it to anybody? I don't know. It took them 7 to get through the series with Toronto. If they beat this Ranger team, more than likely it's going to take 7 to do it against the Rangers. They steamrolled the Florida Panthers and made them look bad in doing so. So maybe. Miller and Moulton. Yeah, you're darn right. The good, the bad, the ugly, what's on tap today was a day win. Still ahead. Florida Sports Network.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I feel like I always talk about music at some point during the show. Pharrell Williams. I mean, he's one of the greatest to ever do it. Mark, I'm assuming you've never seen Stranger Things, yes?
That is correct.
It's really good.
Is it scary? Is that a scary show?
You know?
Or is it just a...
I think...
Is it just a...
It's not... It's... Okay. It is under the genre of horror, like TV horror.
Gotcha.
But I will say this. It's more of just a thriller.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the horror in the show is probably better than any horror movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Not in the sense of like, oh, I'm scared, but it's just like it's insane. It's not stupid. Horror movies are stupid. All of them, they're stupid.
I actually agree with that statement. I'm not a horror movie person.
Yeah, it's stupid. But
So were you supposed to go to the baseball game this weekend?
I was, but the storm, we just kind of nixed it, even though it was the game still happened.
I was going to say, was the game Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
Is it going to be made up, or did you get out of this?
We never bought tickets, so I'm out of it. This is a top 10 good, bad, and ugly today.
I can't.
Wow.
Whenever I have people tweeting me stories. I'm excited. So my buddies, the pro, where they're having the BMW Corn Ferry thing this week.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pro-Am's a big, like, Michael Collins is playing in the Pro-Am. That's the one they were battling about betting. He and the guy from the one of the guys that they had on in your cast there, they were making bets about this thing. Oh, when Buck, it was the BMW to play with Buck at Augusta or whatever, if you call it. But it's like Ken Griffey Jr.'s in this, Larry Fitzgerald's in it. So my buddy's been texting me all morning. Says Boo Weekly's awesome. Said he hit 10 range balls and went LFG. He's done. But he's telling me all the people are coming. There's a group text. I'm like, do you need the hotline number so you can hand Griffey the phone and just do a quick interview?
Apparently, him and Collins are tight. Apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, Johnny Mac, the first time I ever tried crab cakes in my entire life was in downtown Baltimore.
Probably a good place to start.
Yeah. You no kidding. And ever since that day, it's probably my favorite seafood dish.
I make a mean crab cake.
I love crab cakes.
Really easy to make.
Really?
Simple.
I also like the blackened mahi-mahi.
Also simple to make.
Blackened, yes. Very simple.
Blackened's about the easiest thing in the world to make.
Yeah. But it's got to be blackened. Love that. It's so good. His finger looking good. Don't sue me.
Do you have something here? Because I got a little something.
Let's
just
go
to throw out there.
Something. Yeah, we got a little. Let's do your little something. Because I was spending most of that trying to find a good. Always the tough one to find.
Especially in Florida. Well, you really just do it anywhere.
I do.
Not a lot of good in this world anymore.
No, there's not.
Yep. We said he wouldn't make Friday, and he got fired Friday morning.
Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. If you missed any part of the show, you can download it. Our podcasts get posted where? floridasportsnetwork.com. It's that easy. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when. Some final thoughts all coming up in about 20 minutes. Hopefully this doesn't bore you to tears, Mark, but if you could give me about 30 good seconds, I just want to draw up a scenario that really doesn't happen in any of the other major sports in our country. But it is remarkable. We talk in college football even, Mark, about the haves and the have-nots. Do you think a third of the way into the college football season that essentially the season is over? A third of the way, 4 games in, basically September. Do you think, you know what, we could freeze the sport on October 1st and basically say, okay, this is what's going to happen?
I do not.
Well, Mark, unless something dramatic happens, there are 6 teams in the American League that are 500 or better. And the 6th one is Boston, who just had to climb their way up out of the abyss to get to 27-27. They would make the playoffs if the playoffs started today. They're 500. 15 teams in the league, 9 of the 15, 60% are below 500. 10 of the 15 do not have winning records. I mean, this is mind-boggling, the separation between pretender and contender for an entire league. I mean, let me just throw some teams out at you. Cleveland's a game below 500.
Right.
You know, they're only a game behind the Twins in the loss column, but they're a half game behind the Red Sox for the 6th seed. Now, the White Sox have had a ton of injuries. They're 2 games below 500. They're a game behind the Red Sox. I think we all think the White Sox, they won the division last year. They got a good roster. They just had a rough start to the season. Okay. What do you think about the Angels, who have just lost 11 in a row? They're below 500. The Texas Rangers started 2-9, 6-14. Now they're 3 games below 500. I mean, Mark, they're technically a game and a half out of the playoffs. But I mean, I mentioned Cleveland, the White Sox, the Angels, Texas. Out of those 4, who are you going to put $20 on to even be relevant in mid-August?
David, believe it or not, I think I could take as much of a flyer on Seattle as I could the Rangers or the Angels.
Okay.
And I'm not going to, but I'm trying to actually emphasize your point. Because if you're going to put money on the Rangers, well, then why wouldn't you say Seattle, who had high expectations before the season? I know they're 6 games back of 500, but if the Angels can lose an 11 in a row, shouldn't be that tough for the Mariners in that division to string along a couple of victories. That
and by the way,
to be pretty bad.
And Seattle, just 3 behind the Red Sox right now. So think about it. You think you're a good team. You've gotten off to a really rough start. You're at the 1/3 pole. You wake up on Monday morning and you go, wait a minute, we're 3 games out of the playoffs? That's it? Huh. That's not bad.
So,
but I mean,
I'm hoping for baseball's sake, David, that between now and the 4th of July, a handful of teams can get in and around 500 to make the second half appear to be a race. Because to your point, David, it's looking like most of the baseball season's done for a lot of franchises already, and here we are on June 6th.
The division leads right now in the American League. Yankees leads 7.5. Houston's leads 8.5. Minnesota's leads 4.5. Now, I will say it's a weird thing going on in that division. Like the Twins have played 56 games and the Guardians have played 49. So, strange doings in that division. But, Mark, in the National League, I mean, the Braves just swept the Rockies to move above 500. So now you actually have 7 teams in the National League that are above 500 for 6 playoff spots.
Give it up to the NL.
Right.
A team with a 500 record that won't be in the postseason.
And the Braves right now are 2 games behind the Giants for the final wild card. Now, I think the Braves are still very much in the National League East, even though they're 8.5 back. But you know, my point is that they're 2 back of the Giants so we got 7 of the 15 in the National, and we got 6 of the 15 if you count 500, 5 of the 15 if you have to be above 500. And we're at the 1/3 pole. The season started April 7th. Today's June 6th. We've played 2 of the 6 months, basically. And it is remarkable in that short a period of time. I mean, think about it in football, Mark. I mean, a third of the way through the season is basically 5 games. 5 and change if you want to go 6. I mean, could you imagine wiping out over half the league, 2/3 of the league? And so, imagine wiping out 2/3 of the NFC 6 games into the upcoming season.
It's remarkable what's going on in baseball right now because you couldn't do that. You can't do that in the other sports.
I mean, we all know how it ends. A team that could start 4-2 could end up 7-10, for goodness sakes. Remember, Carolina started 3-0 last year, ended up 5-12. But there are not a lot of teams that are scuffling, if you will, that we think are good teams and that, they still have 105, 110 games, give them a chance. Like the Phillies are hoping they're one of those teams. They just fired their manager. They've won 3 or 4 in a row. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, and the Diamondbacks tried to be that team, David. They're already 3 games beneath 500. There's nobody that got off to the unexpected good start. Maybe the Angels a little bit. They've already, that 11-game losing streak doesn't help things. But there's not one team that we thought was going to be bad that's good, David.
the Philly, if you're really trying to spin this, if you're a Phillies fan, you're 4.5 back of the Giants for the final playoff spot. Look at it that way. Forget the whole 11 back in the East. You're 4.5 out of the playoffs. You've had a rough start to the season. The one thing also, which we don't take into account, there are some teams like the Yankees and the Mets who have played a pretty soft schedule. And they both have a tough 3-4 weeks on the schedule. They're starting to play the good teams in the next
really
3-4 weeks.
The Mets. They won 2 or 3 from the Dodgers.
Well, split 4. It was a
4
4-gamer. But the Yankees now, we'll see. Do the Yankees come back to earth in the next 3 weeks? They're going to play some good teams.
But I mean, the Yankees right now play 500 the rest of the way. They're at what, like 94 wins, 93 wins?
Yeah, well, that's the danger with the Mets.
It's 93 wins for the Yankees if they play 500 ball the rest of the way.
Right. If the Mets play 500 ball the rest of the way, they win 90, which maybe the Braves can overtake them to win the division, but it's certainly going to get you in the playoffs.
But I mean, it doesn't take much for the Yankees. They go a couple of games more over 500. They're a 100-win team. And even with Toronto and Tampa being pretty darn good, they're not catching them.
No, if the Yankees play 500 the rest of the way, they win 93 games. So, Dratharion mentions in our Twitch chat room, would they ever consider split seasons? I've mentioned
only
it
if
for
David
25
Moulton's
years.
commissioner.
Right.
It would be David Moulton's first move as czar of baseball. It would happen in a nanosecond. In fact, I think of all of those changes you could make in sports, David. I've worked with you a long time. Would this be number one on your list? Of all of the things that you think would be for the good of sport that you could change, would you split seasons before making any change in any other sport?
Well, now that they're going to adopt my pitch clock and all that, because that would have been number one, but now that they're going to adopt it, yes, going forward, I would fundamentally change the Major League Baseball regular season. I would split the sucker in half.
Ooh, this is a poll question for just you. Relegation or split season?
Ooh.
I mean, that's talking dirty to David Moulton right there.
That is some sports porn on a Monday. Wow. We'll be thinking about that the whole flight home. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap today was the day when. Some final thoughts and some sports porn next.
Same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Mark, we're playing golf.
Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up now.
I'd like to thank Budweiser, Twin Peaks, and Southwest Florida Golf Carts. Got some good stuff there, flgolfcarts.com.
Where are you going to go? floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up for our tournament, Saturday, June 11th, a scramble at the West Bay Club in Estero. Your golf will include your foursome and a chance to have lunch and awards after.
Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Your wife's gonna fall asleep on the plane. You're gonna nudge her. Honey, hey, just wait a minute. I got regulation versus
Yeah, really.
No, we did not.
Yeah, Logic Man. Granted, this is my bias, but if I was a college or I was a minor league team of some kind, I would invest in our on-air product, whether it was radio, TV, internet, whatever. Those are infomercials. The better I think you make your product look and sound, the more merchandise, the more tickets, the more I think you sell yourself. I think one of the biggest mistakes that FGCU makes is how in the last couple years they had a great staff, an awesome producer, and Jeff did to Iowa, and the product and they've lost personnel and they don't have enough cameras because they can't replace the equipment, and
They had to buy all their own equipment for that?
for the ASUN baseball tournament.
No, for ESPN3, like the basketball stuff?
Yeah. Yep. And their product now is not, they used to have the best product in the ASUN 3 years ago. And now their product is below average.
I still laugh at the fact that we did like 18 Everblades broad television games a year.
I know.
And made money.
Yeah. Yeah, Logic Man. I think FGCU is in big trouble. I think in this day and age where now money counts more than ever, it's the one thing that they're not good at. And I think it's going to start really hurting the product on the fields in multiple sports. I'm very worried for FGCU's next 3 to 5 years.
David, on that topic, I had a friend of mine the other day just try to explain to me that they believe that FGCU has enough money for a football stadium, and I just told them that's hilarious, but I didn't know what specifically to say back.
They need $100 million.
That's what I said.
No, that's
They're like,
that's a
they could
bare.
get that. I'm like,
that's
no.
a bare minimum. They don't have $10 million.
Guys, they don't have an NIL dollar.
Think about that.
They don't have the infrastructure set up. I think they're in big trouble. I really do. Now, they shouldn't be. All right. I mean, with all the money that's in the 239, actually, they could be Coastal Carolina.
But their excuse was, if they can build a new water school, why can't they build a football stadium?
A new what?
The water school. They just built a brand new state-of-the-art facility on campus for the water school, like marine science.
Gotcha.
Mello, I don't know if it's a great class, to be honest with you. I mean, 2 of the kids there, I just think they're bodies. The Stetson kid was coming. Chambers had nothing to do with that. His girlfriend's at FGCU. He was coming. He told Fly he was coming in the handshake line. So, but we'll see.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes until we're out of here on this Monday, the first such Monday of June. Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Pat Kerwin to join us on the show tomorrow as we will talk a little bit of football. Pat all fired up. Blades are up to spit. Halfway in the finals to their second Kelly Cup championship. Games 3 and 4 at home Wednesday, Friday, and if needed, they'll lace them up on Saturday.
All right. I'm not rooting against the Everblades. I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But if they're going to lose one of the first two at home, lose Wednesday. That way you can maximize ticket sales for Saturday.
Right.
This is the marketing guy. I did this.
Right.
I used to have the corner office over there. If they're going to lose, sweeps, fine. They'll get two great crowds. It'll be awesome. But if they're going to lose a game, which means they could, end up winning on Saturday, I hope they lose Wednesday so that they have a huge crowd in their Saturday night.
Right, because you saw in the last round in the conference finals, they got up 3-0, had a big crowd for game 4 on Friday, like 6,500.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Then they lose. Well, they don't put game 5 tickets on sale until they know there's going to be a game 5. So tickets went on sale at 10:30 at night on Friday. And so game 5 did 3,500 to 4,000.
Right. And that's all. I don't want anybody to take that the wrong way. But if they're going to lose one of the two games, I'd prefer they lose Wednesday so they get big crowds on Friday and Saturday.
Now, Logic Man in our Twitch chat room, there were a few people, Mark, that I saw game 4 last week who showed up with brooms.
I like it.
Okay, you know how superstitious I can get. Because remember, you showed up with brooms, and what happened? They lost.
Well, you don't bring a broom back.
So exactly.
Or back.
Do you come back the next week when they have a chance to sweep again with brooms? No, you keep them at home.
And the broom, you don't need it in a final. You want to do it in a conference final in a first round, that's fine. At this point, what do you do? Throw the broom on the ice? Hit somebody? No. All right. Time now for Today Was a Day Win because we still haven't given Vicky a new liner to
No, we haven't. That's on me.
So it's D-Day. All right, everybody. I got to do the rest of this stuff. D-Day. That's kind of the main theme of today.
Right.
But there was a bunch of other crap that happened. 1844 is where we start. The Young Men's Christian Association, formed by George Williams in London. Without that, we wouldn't have had the song, David.
YMCA.
1925, Walter Chrysler founds an automobile manufacturer. You know what it's called? The Chrysler Corporation.
Huh. How about that?
Also in 25, René Lacoste and Suzanne Lenglen both win the French, but it was the first year that the French was considered a Grand Slam event.
Huh.
1939, the New York Giants beat the Reds 17-3. They had 5 home runs in the 4th inning. I thought that was a fun little factoid. And also in 1939, a second fun factoid, J.F. Crater was declared legally dead. He went missing in 1930. They declared him legally dead 9 years later.
Really? What tipped it off?
Did I mention D-Day in 44?
You did.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Today in 46, the first person to take their shirt off on TV happened. It was Henry Morgan. Colonel Potter was the first person to take his shirt off on television, David.
Wow, what was he doing?
An appendectomy. Also in 46, the Basketball Association of America is formed in New York City. It would end up being the NBA. 1960, the Steve Allen Show last airs on NBC. 65, the Stones released this little single. It's called Satisfaction. 66, the NFL and AFL announced their merger.
Now, think about that. That's when they announce it. But it took 4 years, and there was some doubt during it if it was going to happen.
Today in 68, Senator Robert Kennedy died from the wounds he received in the shooting from the previous day. David, this is one for you. I'm sure you know this, but I did not. It was today in 69 that Joe Namath resigns from the NFL after Pete Rozelle said he must sell his stake in a bar.
His resignation lasted shorter than I think Kevin Na's resignation is going to last from the PGA Tour.
1970, Margaret Court wins the French, winning the second of the leg of the Grand Slam, which she would win. 71, the final broadcast of the Ed Sullivan Show on CBS. It was a repeat from February the 7th.
Seriously?
Talk about mailing it in.
Wow.
Right. 1972, David Bowie releases The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Heard it did pretty well. 76, the Celtics beat the Suns 4-2.
That was after the epic Game 5. Gar Hurd hit the shot at the end of double overtime after the Suns called timeout when they didn't have one, so they got the technical, but it worked out to their advantage anyway. Yep. That's maybe my first NBA Finals that I remember.
I remember Game 5, believe it or not. JoJo White dribbling it out at the end of the game. 78, Roone Ardledge would start this new show on ABC. It would be called 2020. Fun little factoid here. In 83, David, Betty White becomes the first woman to win the Outstanding Game Show Host as a Daytime Emmy Award. She hosted a show called Just Men. Never heard of the show, but like the fact that she won a Daytime Emmy for it. 84, Tetris was first released in the Soviet Union. How many hours, not minutes, how many hours or days did you waste at your computer playing Tetris? Not you, David. I'm talking to our audience right now. You didn't play computer games. I'm talking to everyone but you. Because the rest of us, man, oh man.
I played Tetris.
Used to play that at the office in Nashville for hours.
Felipe, you've looked Tetris up?
Come on, I had a Game Boy. Doom doo doo doom doo doo doom doo doo doom doo doo doom doo doom 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 doom. Continue.
87, 17-year-old Steffi Graf beats Martina for her first Grand Slam victory. 1990, Stump Merrill replaces Bucky Dent as the Yankee manager. And I love this one in 91, David. I know you'll remember this. Albert Bell shipped to the minors for not running out a ground ball. That's when teams had hand, David. Also today in 91, NBC announces Jay Leno will succeed Johnny Carson as the next host on The Tonight Show.
That went over well.
1998, Sex and the City premieres on HBO. Let's see here. 2002, The Bourne Identity is premieres in LA. 2007, the Ducks beat the Senators for the Stanley Cup. That seems like it couldn't even happen. Then, now, or any time in the future, David.
There were 723 people that watched that Stanley Cup final that year. Ottawa and Anaheim.
Oh,
unreal.
2010, Rafi wins his fifth. 2015, Serena wins her third at the French. 2018, this is for Felipe. He probably had this one ready for me. As LeBron eclipses Michael Jordan's records for most 30-point games in NBA playoff history.
Did not have that.
Oh. Those who were born today are no longer with us. Nathan Hale, you know, I regret that I only have one life to give for my country. That guy. Bill Dickey played for the Yankees. And Bobby Mitchell, Pro Football Hall of Fame running back, all born today, no longer with us. Tommy Smith is 78 years old today. Bjorn Borg is 66. Jimmy Jam and Colin Quinn are 63. Stevie Vai is 62. Cam Neely is 57. Paul Giamatti is 55. Olinda Mari is 49. And D-Hop, he's going to miss 6 games. Happy birthday. He's 30 years old today. And that, David, is today was the day when.
That's a lot going on. Yeah. Plus, it's D-Day.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
For the good, we go to Alaska, where an Iditarod sled dog was found safe after disappearing from a checkpoint in the rate 3 months ago and covering 150 miles. The musher of France is picking Leon up, and they're back together again. Good for he and the dog. Great to hear anytime a dog is safe. Oh, boy. It's going to turn really quickly now, folks. For the bad, we go to Immokalee, where a Lehigh Acres man was arrested for buying alcohol for a minor and then letting the minor operate his vehicle without a license. The 56-year-old was sitting in the back of the vehicle while the driver was trying to change seats. Thank God they pulled this over before it got really ugly. And then one of my favorite uglies of all time. Kids are out of school, so I'd cover their ears. A Florida man and his girlfriend are both alive, thank goodness.
Oh, boy.
After the driver lost focus of the road and crashed head-on with a FedEx truck last Thursday. You see, the driver was distracted because his passenger, well, she was doing what any man would like to have done to him. Problem was they were driving down the road while that hug was going on.
The hug.
Yes.
Yes, the hug.
And he became distracted. It's rumored that she may have almost bit it off, but it looks as if the injuries will not be catastrophic. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, come
on today, June the 6th, 2022.
Did I mention it's D-Day?
Full circle.
No? Okay. Listen, we have to have the Edmonton Oilers win tonight because if Colorado wins, that's it for Turner covering hockey. You know, that's what happened when Golden State made quick work of Dallas in 5 in the Western Conference Finals. And then there's that moment when you realize, wait a minute, no Kenny and Chuck and Shaq and Ernie? You mean Turner's done? I got to watch the 4-letter network? Well, it's the same in hockey. Colorado sweeps Edmonton. We're stuck with nothing but Sean McDonough, who doesn't know half the people on the ice.
No, but he memorizes a couple and goes to them a lot. The
Yes,
bad part for
does.
Sean is that the game's not on radio.
Right. Because then we'd have John Forsland. And that'd be great. So there you have 8 o'clock tonight, TNT. Let's hope Edmonton can at least send the series to Colorado, give us a little more hockey to watch.
No Kane for Edmonton, 1-game suspension for that hit from behind.
Yeah, I thought he should have gotten a game misconduct. That's a dirty hit. That's the dirtiest hit in the sport. I don't know why this sport. I mean, Mark, to me, I don't know why they even had to have a conference and decide whether it should have been a 5-minute major. I thought as soon as it happened, it's like, well, it's 5 minutes and he's gone. I mean, it's the dirtiest play in the sport. You cross-check a guy from behind a yard away from the boards so that he goes head and shoulder first into the boards. I mean, that's the dirtiest play in the sport.
No, that's how you give someone a very severe injury, life-changing injury, and they shouldn't allow it. It should be. I don't mind the conference, David, because the conference is to get it right and call the 5 and kick them out. You know, I don't ever mind when officials conference. I really don't. Just get the call right.
But they didn't kick him out of game 3. I know. They just gave him the 5, but they didn't give him the game misconduct. And then we've got 6 baseball games tonight. Rays and Marlins are not playing. The headliner, if you will, Boston's in Anaheim. Red Sox are coming off a sweep, and the Angels have lost 11 in a row. It's Syndergaard against Waka, and the Angels are favored.
David, the Cincinnati Reds are favored.
Wow.
The Reds are home for Arizona. Bumgarner's on the mound for Arizona, and the Reds are a favorite.
And Bleacher Report is reporting that Walmart heir Rob Walton is going to have the winning bid for the Broncos at $4.5 billion, which is the most money that any team has ever sold for in any sport in this country. Chelsea just went for $5.25 billion across the pond. So the Broncos go for $4.5 billion. And Mark, I'm going to predict, and I haven't seen the finer workings of the story, I'm going to predict it's all cash. Because if you look closely at the most recent NFL sales, like the guy who bought the Panthers did not have the highest bid, but it was an all cash deal. And the NFL said sold. And I'm guessing since the Walton there, Walmart can go find the $4.5 billion and go, do you want this in 50s or 100s? But there you go. Broncos, estimated 10th or 12th most valuable franchise in the NFL, just went for $4.5.
Their concessions just got cheap. The lines got longer, and you're going to have to check yourself out of all of them.
So we hope.
Have a great rest of your Monday. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning to do this whole thing over again. Thanks so much for listening to Miller and Moulton. Where else but on the Florida Sports Network?
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourself